We got you covered until 1 o'clock. We're happy to be here with you. We hope you're having a fantastic day. If you want to jump in on the conversation, you can do that. 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Kayla Farley's going to be here after practice wraps up, and we'll chop it up. We'll talk some ball with Coach Dave McGinnis at Titans Radio, who's going to join us. I think Lucas in the middle of the Caleb Farley thing.
I think that is what's happening.
Like I think Mac. Do you think Mac is just going to completely overtake the entire situation?
Respectfully, would you rather hear your conversation with Caleb Farley or Coach Dave McGinnis' conversation with Caleb Farley?
That's a very, very cold way to do that. But yes, you're right.
I said respectfully.
Didn't feel respectful. It didn't feel respectful at all. Shame on you, really. But yeah. Football was back last night. How about that?
Yes, it was.
Jake Lewton and Jarrett Stidham. It's honestly my favorite part of the preseason. When you get to these games and all of a sudden there's a quarterback on your screen who you are desperately trying to identify because you did not know that player currently wears that uniform. I had no idea that Jarrett Stidham was the new Marcus Mariota, the new backup to Derek Carr. And Jake Lewton, who we talked about yesterday. So I was ready for Lewton. But Jarrett Stidham showed up last night. Did you enjoy the preseason football?
I enjoyed hearing Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth. I enjoyed hearing the NBC football theme song. I'm not going to say I enjoyed watching Jarrett Stidham play football. I'm like you. I did not know he was a Las Vegas Raider until he trotted out there for the first snap.
It's the best, honestly.
But just having football on my television felt right.
It's like week 15 when you find out that Anquan Bolden plays for the Detroit Lions.
Yes.
Like it's that kind of thing.
Yes. Kyle Sloter with 25 pass attempts for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Have you ever heard the name Kyle Sloter?
You know, I have, but I not on purpose. I think it's just there's always a Kyle Sloter floating around in the background somewhere on a preseason NFL roster. But it's great because it's football. What are you throwing your hands up in the air for?
Mekhi Sargent got 5 carries for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
No.
Did you know Mekhi Sargent plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I will not engage in Mekhi Sargent conversation. I will not do it. You cannot make me. What a wild was that just last season? Mekhi Sargent and Mason Kinsey taking over the Titans roster?
It was.
Oof.
Kinsey's still here.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And we are here with you throughout the course of today's show. So I must admit, because we had this conversation yesterday about why are you going to watch the Hall of Fame game? What would possibly provoke you to put on such a terrible product as far as what it is that the rest of the NFL looks like on a regular basis? So the idea that just people just need – I had somebody tweet me saying he needed to feel something again. That's why he was putting on preseason football. He needed to feel something again.
Got to see Raquel Armstead's carry for the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2 yards.
I'm telling you, it's like a drug addiction. Like I keep making those comparisons because I watched The Wire here recently, but the NFL really is the dealer in this particular situation, and everybody is showing up for the red tops or blue tops. What do I call them in The Wire? And except the red tops are Jake Lewton and the blue tops are Jarrett Stidham.
Well, I learned a few things yesterday. I learned that Mekhi Sargent is a member of the Jaguars roster. I learned that the Las Vegas Raiders have all the running backs.
All of them. Do you feel better for knowing that Mekhi Sargent is a member of the Jaguars?
No, it doesn't change my life one bit, but it's something I know now that I didn't know before.
I'm very happy for you. I must admit, I went in. We talked about this yesterday. Titans currently in the middle of team drills. Somebody down on the field looks like, though, are slow to get up on the defensive side of the football. They're on the second field currently. We will keep you updated. Still looking like he's doubled over in like a tabletop position. I can't see a number from here. But as that, he's being helped now to the sideline.
Yeah, see if one of our media brethren can help us out with that.
He's not able, his left leg, whomever that is, for the Titans defense. And that would have been the first team defense. So we will update you as information becomes available, and perhaps Twitter will be quicker to do so since this is a live it's allowed to live tweet this portion of practice, so I'm sure we'll see an update here in just a second. But never a good thing when you see a situation like a player being helped off to the sidelines. Now, I haven't seen a cart yet, although there is one back there, but it does not appear that was the direction that they took the individual. So we'll keep an eye on this for you, and as soon as you see something, Lucas, just let people know. But anyway, I had gone in with the intention of watching the entire Hall of Fame game, and then I'd completely forgotten that I had a. Have you ever had somebody do not a rehearsal dinner before a wedding, but just kind of like a happy hour? Like a happy hour at a bar.
No.
It was a happy hour. It was like a happy hour for not just the wedding party, but like I think for friends and family and a bunch of people to come hang out. Way better.
It was Dylan Cole.
Dylan Cole,
yep.
Brett Batchelor on the headset telling us that Dylan Cole, the inside linebacker, so the depth at that position in a tenuous spot. Remember, Monty Rice still remains on the physically unable to perform list. So now you look at Zach Cunningham, you look at David Long, and you are basically being fortified there by undrafteds.
Yep.
At this point,
left leg for Dylan Cole.
Right, he was not able to put weight on it, and now I'm trying to see if he's been taken off the practice field yet. It does not look like that's been the case, but we will keep an eye on things, and as new information becomes available, we'll let you know. But yeah, no, I had every intention of watching the Hall of Fame game last night, and I barely saw. I think I saw 10 snaps.
You said watching the entire Hall of Fame game.
The entire thing.
That is psychopathic behavior.
I thought about it.
Watching 1/4 of the Hall of Fame game is one thing. I remember watching it last year.
I guess I'm a psychopath.
And Brett Batchelor in our ear saying he must be a psychopath because he watched the whole thing. Last year I was watching it where it was the Steelers, and I can't remember who they were playing, but it got to a point in the game where Joe Buck and Troy Aikman commented on the Steelers punter being the MVP, and I said, I've been watching this for far too long.
Oh, yes. It's the only time outside of the state of Tennessee where Brett Kern is perpetually the MVP punter. It is near impossible for a punter to be MVP in any other situation but the preseason. So, it begs a question. I'm curious as to how many starters end up playing in Baltimore for them next Thursday. I can't imagine we see a bunch. Now, there will be players who are going to get meaningful reps in the regular season that will, of course, play during the preseason. I'd expect to see Treylon Burks in some capacity. I would imagine that we'll see Roger McCreary, who I think is going to be on the field in some form or fashion. And, buddy, we're going to talk about that today. Because I can't remember who I was talking to, if it was Greg Cosell or somebody else in the football world recently, about just the amount of defensive backs, young, talented defensive backs that the Titans have on the roster. And just a quick update on Dylan Cole. He's currently walking off the field on under his own power with two members of the Titans training staff headed towards the locker room right now. But good news, he is up and moving on his own accord. No cart necessary.
Yeah, that is good news. And no significant limp.
No, not to the extent where they were literally just carrying him off the field, which of course makes your chest tight in any sense of stretch of the situation. Oh, we got some one-on-ones in front of. Oh my God, we have perfect visibility for the one-on-ones. You want to do this?
Fantastic.
Let her rip.
Well, it's not team drills, so we're looking at basically 7-on-7s without the defense.
Wait, why is there no defense? I just noticed this.
Well, let's figure out what we're looking at first.
Okay, that's a good call by you. See, observation is a dying art. That's why you're the play-by-play guy. Brett, you whispered in our ear that you must be a psychopath, which means you watched all of the Hall of Fame game last night.
I watched every single bit of the Hall of Fame game last night.
You sicko.
I wanted to watch football. I was making dinner, and I turned the game on. I sat down, and I watched every single bit of it. I suppose there are better ways, or there are worse ways to pass the time than while making dinner, watching Jake Lewton dink and dunk his way, largely ineffectively down the field. Just out of curiosity, what was his stat line? What was Jake Luton's stat line?
Let's take a look here.
In last night's Hall of Fame game.
10 of 17, 94 yards. No touchdowns, no picks.
It makes my stomach turn. It makes just the idea of watching that kind of constipated football and that being the thing that's going to satisfy all of our needs because we're all thirsty for it.
Well, I will say it's not terribly often you get to see the number 1 overall pick in the Hall of Fame.
And
game.
He had a sack, Trayvon Walker.
Very early on. Might have been the first snap from scrimmage.
No,
Actually,
the first snap from scrimmage was a roughing the passer.
It was a roughing the passer. No, you're right. You're right, Brett. I think it was on Trayvon Walker, who came in hot with his hand smacking Jarrett Stidham right on the helmet.
Brett is very anxious to prove to us that he watched the Hall of Fame game. Buddy, I've never heard you this passionate about anything in all of our time working together.
I'm excited. It's football season. I'm ready to go.
No, it's completely fair. You are the majority today. You are the majority today. There is no question about it.
A couple former Titans were in action last night. Matthias Farley had 3 tackles for the Raiders. Jayon Brown had a pair of tackles, his first preseason game in Vegas. A former Vol and Kendall Vickers had a couple of tackles and a sack for Las Vegas.
Somebody sent me a question yesterday about, that whether the Titans are going to miss Rashaan Evans and Jayon Brown. And I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and said, I don't think so at all. I mean, Rashaan was inactive for the playoff game. Like, that ended very, very quickly once they got Zach Cunningham. And now with Dylan Cole getting injured, I mean, you start to – that's the place where you have the initial concern about the first place in training camp where there's been a clear and obvious issue with a position that, does not at this point have sufficient depth. Now, We'll see what the extent of the injury is. And, of course, Cole is primarily a special teams player. But, again, these are valuable reps for somebody to take advantage of. And in the absence of Monty Rice, that's been Dylan Cole working in with Zach Cunningham and David Long.
He might need to be more than that this year when healthy.
Who, Cole?
Dylan Cole. I mean, look at that room right now. And you talk about what starters, you're curious about what starters may or may not play in Baltimore. Doubt any of the starters at inside linebacker will, after watching Dylan Cole get helped off the practice field.
Well, and this is the exact reason. Like, people, we had some people, I think, being critical of the idea that Derrick Henry is not, like, participating in the team drills at this point, because, of course, Derrick Henry would not be participating in the team drills at this point, because there is zero reason for you to jeopardize your biggest and most consistently successful source of offensive production so you can see an outside zone look against your scout team D.
Yeah, he's out there. He's in full pads. He's running individual drills.
He looks great.
No reason to throw him in there.
Send him over to the sand pit, call it a day.
Yeah, not on the stationary bike, so that should be good enough.
Yes, there are a few players who we have seen return who have not been participating in practice, although I did not again see Elijah Molden. And that's basically what the genesis of our conversation before Kayla Farley joins us after practice today. That's basically going to be the genesis of our conversation. Is where we let's see. No Elijah Molden again for the Titans, according to Teron Davenport, Kevin Byard, and Robert Woods, along with Molden, are on the stationary bike. So.
And then Bud Dupree and Ben Jones, the ones that have returned to practice.
Yes,
today.
I did see both Bud and Ben, so worth noting there. Now, but that's the thing that we're going to talk about, because I brought up, like, rookies you're going to see in the preseason, rookies you're excited about. Roger Mccreary is going to be on the field for the Titans in some form or fashion, but we need to talk about specifically where, because while Elijah Molden is missing these practice reps as he works his way back from whatever it is that he's dealing with, I think a lot of people are just penciling in Mccreary as the slot corner. And I don't think that's the place where that's the most obvious competition. We'll get into that coming up next, live from Titans training camp. It's 104.5 The Zone. be on with us after practice today, and Coach Mack.
Had a nice pass breakup on Racing McMath a few plays ago.
He really did, man. He's got it's not just the ability to close like that, but it's just we've talked so much about the length, but the length is truly and legitimately impressive and an asset in the ways that you can tangibly see out on the field. I'm curious to see how many reps guys like Kayla Farley get in the preseason. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you're already whether the injury, by the way, forced fumble there.
Swaim scooped up his own fumble.
Hey, listen, they practice that drill where the ball's live on the ground and you're just bobbling around trying to chase it. There's no way, no matter how physically superior of a professional athlete you are, there is no way to look graceful chasing a football around on the ground.
A bouncing football.
It's impossible. it's honestly, it's my greatest fear during these practices, that a ball is going to come in my direction. I'm going to go for it. It's just going to bounce and I'm going to tear my ACL. Just go down in a pile of myself.
It's been a competitive 7-on-7 drill played out in front of us here. Saw Logan Woodside with a nice toss over the middle a couple plays ago.
Yeah, no, people are getting into it out here on the practice field. But again,
deep ball for McMath.
Whoa! Went up to get it. Who's that in coverage?
Pass
that is
break up on Christian Fulton.
Christian Fulton. Nice technique there by 26. And at least in this 7-on-7, or rather, 7-on-7 period, that's been the thing that is my takeaway so far defensively is I'm seeing the defensive backs play with better technique than I did 6 days ago. You know what I'm saying? And that's the kind of incremental progress that the coaching staff is looking for. I was talking to somebody in the organization yesterday. I think yesterday. The days mixed together.
Yeah.
Yes, at some point in the last couple of days, I was speaking to somebody with the organization, and basically it was a conversation about, I know you guys get tired of hearing it really is day by day. It's day by day. The progress is day by day. We're just looking for stacking days, all these different day cliches that you can use, But ultimately, when you're out here every day to see the kind of incremental process and progress that's happening, you understand why that's just a droning mantra in the back of every football coach's playbook for them to repeat and repeat and repeat almost militaristically for these guys to just get it crammed in their heads. Tannehill to Racing McMath
all
again,
alone.
Deep ball, all alone. 28 and Fulton in coverage. 28 is, I believe, Trey Avery, if memory serves. I haven't memorized my roster.
Josh Kalu.
Josh Kalu, that's right. He changed his number. Is 23 Trey Avery?
23, stand by. Yes.
Okay, very good. I'm getting there.
23 on defense.
By the end of camp, I'll have it, which is all that I really care about.
20.
That's exactly what camp is. That's all I really care about at this point. Now Malik Willis gets a shot in the 7-on-7 reps against looks like the third-team defense out here. A quick pass to number 84.
Dumped down to Brandon Lewis.
Brandon Lewis.
We haven't really said his name, the rookie undrafted out of Air Force.
No, I can't say that we have. Now he appears to be, if there was a roll on it, he looks like a smaller Mason Kinsey. Basically, Mason Kinsey is not a physically overwhelming player at the
5'9", 175. Kinsey, 5'10", 202.
Oh, look at that. Eye test, baby. Never fails. See what Willis has got in this particular rep. Looks like Haskins out to his right.
Deep ball. Down the middle of the field, running free and hauled in.
Malone.
Josh Malone.
That was a good question of Vrabel to Rob Moore yesterday, the wide receivers coach. And I can't recall who asked it. It was either Glennon or Kaharski about what are you looking for from Josh Malone in terms of, okay, he's super crisp in the individual drills, or he makes plays consistently in these 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s. Like, what is the greater value there? And Rob Moore basically said, the league comes down to the ability to make a play, even if mechanically.
Getting a little chippy out there.
Mason Kinsey. What happened there, bud? Spicy out on the field today. I told you, it's like the 84 is a smaller Mason Kinsey, and then Mason decided to square up on somebody, and then quickly broken up. Now it looks like they are getting ready to go 11-on-11, 1-versus-1s. Fortunately, right here on the field in front of us.
But your point on Josh Malone, is the question when you look at this roster and the likelihood of keeping 3 quarterbacks on the 53 with Malik Willis and Logan Woodside. For me, it's a big question of whose job does that cost?
Right.
And could it be a guy like Josh Malone? Could that be the difference between keeping 6 or 5 receivers, right?
Yeah, and that's something, well, and again, like kind of going back to the conversation we had yesterday, we played some of that Pat O'Hara sound about what, because I've gotten a lot of questions. What does somebody like Malik Willis have to do to supersede Logan Woodside? Like, I know he's not there yet. People are saying, I know he's not there yet, but what does he need to do? What progress is the coaching staff looking for them to say, okay, I'm now comfortable only keeping 2 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. That helps you with the math as far as how many wide receivers you have, inside linebackers, outside linebackers, D-line depth, up front. It's something that I think it's such a key piece to kind of figuring out the math, as they will over the course of the next couple of weeks, and as cuts come down progressively through the end of this month ahead of September 11th. These are the kind of discussions that will be being had. But like, I don't think for Josh Malone, and I think we've touched on this before, but is it Josh Malone, is it Des Fitzpatrick, or is it Racey? I don't think all 3 of those dudes are on the roster. Now, maybe you think some combination of 2 makes it, but I would have to think that inherently the odds favor the draft picks.
And I think we agree on, out of those 3, who has stacked days the most out of those 3?
Oh, I'd say Racey has been pretty good.
It's Racey McMath. By the way, I was trying to track who Malone beat on that deep ball down the middle of the field. That was some vol-on-vol crime.
Again.
Kenneth George Jr.
Again.
Yeah.
Every time he's the only Titan whose name every time we've said it, it's been a not favorable situation.
Well, but look, for me, it's an accomplishment just for Kenneth George to be signed to this team in the spring.
No, it's fair.
He never really cracked the starting rotation at Tennessee.
Right.
At corner.
Well, and you can see examples of that around the league, really, guys who, I mean, I think people were shocked that Jarrett Garantano got a tryout with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you cannot underestimate how badly teams need legitimate quarterback depth, or when it comes to just having a camp arm. And that may be how guys continue to kind of try and turn a career or try and stay available for opportunities. Because even if you turn it from camp player into practice squad player, the way that somebody like Mason Kinsey or Nick Westbrook-Akina, as a great example, has, I think that's the kind of thing that you have to look for. Those are the kind of success stories. And for Kenneth George, he has an opportunity to be a story like that, should this camp go successfully for him. But getting back to our conversation about the secondary, I thought Shane Bowen, the Titans defensive coordinator, was really informative about Roger Mccreary, the rookie corner, the second-round pick out of Auburn. When we spoke to him, I believe that was Tuesday after practice. This was the Titans DC.
Yeah, man, I've been pleased with him. I mean, we've had this conversation in the spring about him. He's not a rookie. Like, I don't feel him as a rookie. He's poised. He doesn't panic in coverage. He stays square. He challenges. He's got a good understanding of, I think, what it takes to be able to play man-to-man, and we saw that stuff from his college tape. And he's been able to come in here and translate, and he's been outside, he's been inside, he's handled it. So I've been really pleased with where he's at. He's just got to continue to progress.
So that's Shane Bowen talking about Roger Mccreary earlier this week after practice today. And Lucas, I think that's one of the biggest, I don't want to call it a misconception, but I think it's an under-discussed portion of this secondary as they figure out the secondary. Is Mccreary competing for the slot job, or is he a more natural fit to compete on the outside for that open position, who I think a lot of people or the position which I think a lot of people are automatically penciling Kayla Farley into? I don't think that's an outright given. We spent some time on the skill set or the asks that Derek Mason at Auburn made of Roger Mccreary, who, by the way, Roger Mccreary seemed to really, really thrive under. He was almost exclusively on the outside. You talk about the difference between a player like Molden and a player like Mccreary. Well, it does make a difference if you're putting a guy who you want to play in the slot, who has primarily been on the outside, you're putting him in the line of scrimmage. And then all of a sudden the arm length that has been such a talking point, okay, now it's not just being used to try and deflect passes from hyper-athletic wide receivers, but now you're trying to, like, use your length to extend, shed blocks, and make a tackle or run stuff at the line of scrimmage. That's where something like that, and as we discussed yesterday with James Foster of the A to Z Sports Film Room, tackling is not a strength. It is not among his best strengths. Talking about Roger Mccreary, it is critical that you have somebody who is sound as far as that is concerned if you're going to have them playing around the line of scrimmage, if you're going to have them playing around the formation.
Real quick, especially with the youth in this cornerback room, I'm looking at Dan Brugler's analysis of Roger Mccreary going into the draft on the Beast at The Athletic. As far as weaknesses, average recovery, lean-bodied, some missed tackles with questionable angles, and play strength. He says he plays sticky in coverage because of his fluidity to shadow and awareness to recognize route concepts. We've heard John Robinson talk about that as it pertains to McCreary. Plays with a chip on his shoulder and looks to mix things up, but physical nature will backfire in coverage and lead to wild habits as a run defender. That's from Dane Brugler.
You cannot have wild habits as a run defender, especially when Elijah Molden, who by any metrics is a sound run defender and who understands how to properly time not necessarily blitzes but pressures, because he was a part of they are one of the least blitzing teams in 2021, the Tennessee Titans were. Their ability to get pressure with 4 made that defense infinitely better. And so if you talk about the idea of, okay, Molden's missing some time here, let's automatically pencil in Roger McCreary to play the slot. No, that's not what the skill set would indicate. And that's not going to put your defense in the most advantageous position. Things to consider as we start to see these competitions shape up on the outside. And it's about who's going to play on the outside opposite Christian Fulton, who was on the radio show with us earlier this week. And I asked him about the youth in their room.
Yeah, like I said, it's just about building, and getting that experience. The experience brings confidence. So we got a lot of confident guys out there. And like I said, the competition that we have out here, the guys that did play, you can tell that they're competing with the younger guys, to give them some kind of experience of what it's going to be like on Sundays. So that's the main thing that we're taking into accountability, just trying to get those guys ready.
I think people would hear that on like first listen and just kind of I think your initial reaction is you almost glaze over a little bit just because Fulton's tone is so steady. Like there's nothing that really grabs your attention about the way that he's saying what he's saying. But it is a really important point to remember about this Titans secondary. They are incredibly young, but they do have a lot of experience. I thought Christian Fulton was infinitely better from 2020 to 2021. I would like to see a larger sample size of that rate of success because I think that he has great potential. I don't think that it's an automatic given that Christian Fulton, just because you most recently saw him be your most successful corner, that automatically means CB1, right? I think that people get so anxious to do CB1, wide receiver 1, whatever, when it really, like, even the term starter almost feels dated because it's not necessarily about, okay, who's your starting tight end. It's about what formation you start the game in and which 11 players are out on the field, whether you're in 3 wide receivers, whether you're 2 tight ends, one running back, 2 wide receivers. Like, there's all kinds of different ways for this stuff to get twisted in a way that the coaching staff does not do. And I think that's important for people to remember when they see, okay, who's getting the most reps against Baltimore? Who's getting the majority of the reps? Well, it's not necessarily the player who the coaching staff feels the best about. It's the player who the coaching staff is still trying to see more from. Those guys on the fringes. I think that's where a lot of people get caught up just about preseason games specifically. Because once those start, buddy, what we're watching out here on a day-to-day basis, it almost ceases to matter, I think, to the vast majority of people who are listening to the show because they've now seen it too. It's no longer us doing terrible play-by-play of an 11-on-11 drill.
Ouch.
It's not terrible. It's not terrible because you're bad. It's terrible because we physically can't see anything and we're still trying to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Which you think at some point after multiple instances of us botching this, we would cut it out already.
I mean, we've been doing this radio show for a year and a half now, so
with multiple instances of us botching things, and we continue to survive and advance.
Continue to survive. And with Christian Fulton, how much more of a responsibility does he need to shoulder this year with no veteran presence in the locker room, in that room for the first time? With no Jackrabbit Jenkins, no Buster Screen. The guys around him are a second-year player, a rookie in Roger McCreary, and a guy who got drafted the same class that he did in Chris Jackson, but that's a 7th-round pick versus an early 2nd-round pick. It's a massive responsibility for Christian Fulton this year.
I want to get back to what you just said there, but it's interesting right now. Randy Bullock. Oh, they're not actually attempting the field goals.
Oh, just practicing the snap.
That's disappointing.
It is a little windy. I would have liked to see it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That was going to be my point. I was like, there's actual like weather conditions out here today that might impact, that might actually pose legit adversity to Randy Bullock, who we talked about yesterday, being a little sharper in what they call the money zone between 40 and 49 yards on distance. The place where Randy Bullock, I wouldn't say that he outright struggled, but that was his least accurate by percentage distance as the Titans field goal kicker last year. Oh, my God, they're practicing the fake punt.
Oh, yes.
No, I can't.
Well, that wasn't necessarily a fake punt. That was Kern
a fake field goal.
With the hold. Well, no, not even that, because Cal Phillips was just standing in the end zone, and Kern took the snap and the hold and got up and just chucked it to Phillips, who's standing under the goalpost.
Oh my God.
So I don't know what this is. Some type of field goal slash return hybrid drill.
Do you know the worst practice in the history of the Titans under Mike Vrabel? Do you know of this
No.
legend? Mickey Ryan, who is here, could probably tell you about it. This is one of the first practices that I covered. This is the situational football practice. 2018, Mike Vrabel's first year. It was 100 degrees in that stadium. It was the open stadium practice for the fans, and they ran the situational football practice, which is things like the fake field goal throws by Brett Kern or Rob Gronkowski playing in coverage on a last-second Hail Mary, like the most useless drills that you would never see. And that was the one day that fans got to come out and watch them in the stadium. I have never been angrier after a practice just because of the heat and because of the situation that they put everybody in.
I love watching Kern just chuck deep balls. Derek in the YouTube chat says, "Is the punt god out there throwing dots?"
There's a lot of air under that.
Yeah, that one had some hang time.
I don't think a dot or a dart or whatever you want to call it. I don't think that's exactly how it. Now Brett can throw. I've seen Brett whip it around a little bit. But at this point, that's not exactly what's happening. I'm not sure what's happening, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I have no idea.
They're just kind of rainbowing practice and passes up into the end zone.
Tighten Up Dracaris on YouTube says, "Good insight on McCreary. I assumed he was competing with Molden, but from what I'm hearing, he's competing with Farley."
Well, I think you can look at it as both. I would say it's far too early to make a determination about who's going to slot in where. I think the competition actually lies within both because they have to see whether they feel better about McCreary playing the slot than Molden based on the responsibilities of what it is to play the slot. They also have to decide who they feel better about on the outside based on what those responsibilities are in this defense. And kind of going back to your point about Fulton, because you said earlier, how much does he have to kind of just step up, for lack of a better term, and like the whole, vocal leader in the room, there has to be one. Yeah, there can be those guys, but think about the two players that they have behind them. I mean, that's basically going to be the story of that secondary season is, okay, Kevin Byard's running the show. He continues to be the lead dog of the group, even if it's not, MMCMB anymore?
Right.
We're several iterations past my man Catch No Balls, which still is just a ridiculous acronym that I don't understand how they made such a great marketing campaign out of it. But I think Logan Ryan raised some money, so let me not rip it. But in looking at what Christian Fulton has around him, I think that you've got your safety net. Your safety net is built in because Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker, I don't know that they're the best safety tandem in the league, but they are at minimum top 5. They are at minimum a top 5 safety duo in professional football right now. And as long as you have that, you can have a little give. It doesn't have to look like 2020 where there's blown coverages and all of a sudden Byard is out of position because he's having to overcompensate for somebody who didn't pull it off correctly. And I think for that portion of it, you have to keep that in mind when you talk about the youth of the DBs. It's not just about those corners. It's about who they have kind of shepherding the group. We've got tickets to give away for the Music City Grand Prix. We're going to do that coming up next. We got the SEC Stat of the Day. We're live from Titans Training Camp. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
just been trying something different, to be honest with you. So I've seen some tweets today saying that we need good music, and so I wanted to try and put some different things out there. So
No, that doesn't mean go scattershot.
I'm open.
That doesn't mean pull from all over the place. That doesn't mean put your iPhone on shuffle.
What would you like?
I don't know. But I'm saying whatever it is, not this.
Can we
I
do
know
some
that you
Paul
don't want-
Anka?
I
Paul-
know that you
what
don't
is
want
Paul
any Linkin
Anka,
Park.
Kirby?
You don't want any Linkin
It's a
Park. You don't
he.
want any Imagine Dragons. So I
It's pronounced.
always stay away from that.
No, you're right, Brett. I don't want Linkin Park, and I don't want Imagine Dragons, and I
Exactly
certainly
so.
don't want them back to back, which is what I feel like I'm getting today.
I'll be better.
Back to the Shadows.
I'm going.
See what I deal with, Brett?
He's done such a good job.
He's done
for
a
us,
great
too.
job.
I know. I feel I'm doing a little bit of a bit there, but some of it's real. What are you gonna do? Okay, caller number 5, 615-737-1045. We'll give you a pair of tickets to the General Jackson VIP experience Sunday, August the 7th. That's this Sunday, kids, for the Music City Grand Prix.
The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix.
You literally said that in my ear 5 seconds ago. You said, don't forget to say Big Machine, and I said I won't, and there I did it.
You also get 3 day passes, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, plus the General Jackson
What?
VIP tickets. So you can hang out all weekend long and then hop on the boat with us on Sunday.
Is that new?
No, well, that's what we've been doing the whole time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it was just for Sunday.
No.
You
Whole weekend.
Okay, whole weekend. We'll send you the Music City Grand Prix for the whole weekend, and you can do the VIP stuff.
Now give the number.
615-737.
I don't have a talk back, so this is my talk back.
Do you think people enjoy listening? Because you're like rarely here with me in this way. Do you think people enjoy hearing you actually produce the show in my ear?
I hope so.
Not from the shadows.
I hope so.
Now give the number. This just kind of exposes the whole radio show as fraud because I'm actually not doing 3 hours of solo radio. It's just Lucas talking in my ear and I'm parroting everything. 615-737-1045. Caller number 5, you're headed to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. All right, let's do an SEC stat of the day, shall we?
The SEC stat of the day is 80%. 80% is the percentage of returning production across the board on the roster for the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Man.
And that tops the SEC. Do you know, Buck, who has the second highest percentage of returning production in the SEC?
I would venture a guess and say Auburn.
It's Tennessee.
It shouldn't be Auburn because half of their roster jumps in the transfer portal.
That's correct. It's Tennessee at 77%. Those stats are courtesy of Bill Connolly of ESPN.
77% the Vols?
77% of their offensive.
We got a Bulldogs fan out here at
and
practice.
defensive. There you
a
go.
National,
Now a Georgia Bulldogs fan, not a Mississippi State Bulldogs fan.
correct. The right the championship caliber Bulldog, not the other Bulldog who we're talking about today.
That is fair. That is
right.
very fair.
80% of their returning production.
That's right. That's across the board, offense, defense, and special teams. Quarterback Will Rogers threw for 4,739 yards last year, a single-season program record by a large margin. They do lose their lead receiver, Mekhi Polk. He was picked up by the Ravens as a UDFA. They returned their entire rushing attack, which quite honestly makes a bigger impact in the passing game than it does in the running game. On defense, they returned 86% of their tackles, 78% of their sacks, and 82% of their interceptions from last year. So that team went 7-6, losing the bowl game to Texas Tech in blowout fashion. Mike Leach's best teams at Washington State and Texas Tech have always been his oldest teams. This team fits that description, but can they rise higher than 6th place in the SEC West? That's the question. That's just how good the division is. Can they edge out LSU in year one of Brian Kelly? Can they take advantage of an Ole Miss team with a ton of turnover? There's talent in Oxford, but their offseason at Ole Miss has been polar opposite of Mississippi State's offseason, and it doesn't help that Mississippi State's rotated cross-divisional opponent is Georgia this year and not Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Last year it was Missouri-Vanderbilt. This year it's Missouri and the defending national champs. So they're going to be one of those teams that has the potential to be an absolute pain to play against, that could absolutely ruin your Saturday.
Right.
They're experienced, they're high-scoring, they're well-coached. It's just hard to imagine a ceiling higher than 8 wins this year in that division.
Well, and we spoke about this, I think, earlier in the off season, I guess, about what do you do if you're Mississippi State, a team like Mississippi State or Auburn in the West, where you're just you may have some things that allow you to be competitive. I like the Mississippi State coaching staff, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, as you said. Mike Leach historically has done well with more veteran college rosters, so you cannot discount them. But, like, you're still playing in the SEC West and you're going to get smothered because how else? I mean, it's pure cannibalism when you get into all these different things. So
but there is opportunity because Mississippi State may not run into this type of turnover in the division again. I mean, this may be their best opportunity to be better than Auburn. This may be their best opportunity to be better than LSU, who is unquestionably more talented, but it's year one of Brian Kelly. Ole Miss replaces almost their entire roster via the portal. How do those pieces kind of fit in? So it's going to be interesting to see where Mississippi State ends up as a roped ball over the middle is bobbled and dropped by Traylon Burks.
20 – no, who was that in coverage? 33? 33 in coverage there.
Yeah, that would be A.J. Moore.
A.J. Moore.
Yeah, who's done a good job.
Free agent.
In training camp.
DB/special teams addition who is continued. Do you know that I am so scarred by that number in this uniform that I still see Jonathan Joseph, or I think Jonathan Joseph every time I see 33.
What's he up to now?
Being old.
Not playing football. Hey, had a phenomenal career, though.
Certainly, but not here in Tennessee. That did not go well.
No, it did not.
No, anyway. Looking at but yeah, that was an unfortunate drop by Traylon Burks because he had more beating in coverage. So you want to see those things be a little more crisp and buttoned up.
Can I give you a second SEC stat of the day?
You may.
The number of SEC quarterbacks that were, as Nick Westbrook-Akina hauls in a near sideline catch thrown across the body by Ryan Tannehill. Or was that Logan Woodside?
No, that was Woodside back there.
Okay, nice toss by Woodside to NWI. The second SEC stat of the day, I did not get scared, is the number 1. That is the number of SEC quarterbacks that were arrested for evading police on a moped this week.
Now, we talked about this last night when we were prepping the show. And you said to me that Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, the Cardinals wide receiver, was what? What version of this is Briley Moore goes streaking down the sideline on a pass from Logan Woodside in these 11-on-11 drills?
Offense playing pretty well, getting the better of the defense today. Yeah, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown gets arrested for going 126 and a 65 just earlier this week. And
reasonable.
Auburn quarterback T.J. Finley, the former LSU quarterback who transferred to Auburn in a competition with Zach Calzada right now for that starting job, he gets arrested. First, he gets pulled over for riding his moped without a helmet. And then he evades police on said moped, and that's when he gets arrested. So T.J. Finley, a much more metal version, or I guess, what's more metal? Going 126 and a 65 or evading police on a moped?
Evading police on a moped.
Hey, I would agree.
I would say that as we have one of our fine Metro police officers to our right just giggling.
Would you agree? Okay, good.
In fact, officer, can we borrow you for a second? Would you be comfortable putting on a headset and talking about this with us?
You can say no.
You can say no. It's completely fine if you say I don't want to. I don't want to get you in trouble over here. Officer Cook, we're glad to have you on the radio show.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so if somebody is evading you on a moped and all you've pulled them over for is that they don't have their helmet on
a college campus,
do you consider them a greater threat than if they tried to evade you than if they just kind of went quietly and said, "Yes, officer, I'm sorry, I didn't have my helmet on"?
No, I'll be honest. I'd probably be laughing as I'm driving behind them because
you're in a car.
It's a car versus a moped. I mean, I don't even know how you're going that fast on a moped.
It's a funny visual.
The whole thing is complete nonsense. As
we have an interception.
An interception by the UDFA linebacker, number 50.
That is Jack Gibbons.
Jack Gibbons.
The undrafted rookie out of Minnesota. First time we've said his name all year long. Was that a Woodside throw?
That was a Woodside throw. Pat O'Hara giving a dapping Woodside up after the fact, telling her it didn't necessarily look like it was on Logan Woodside. Officer Cook, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
For it. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brett.
The headset was like hooked up to a taser or something like that. Careful, Kirby, you don't get shocked. Excellent. See, we got everybody out here at training camp. I feel terrible for people when I just yank. It's like when I scream at you for audio I didn't ask you to have. I feel like I'm just yanking people off the sideline and be like, "Sir, madam, put on a headset. Talk to me on the radio."
Well, first of all, that taser that you mentioned was a couple of magazines for his sidearm.
Well, Kirby, I don't know anything about these things. You know this.
That's true.
I had somebody ask me, Kirby, the other day if I hunted. And I said,
in the grocery store for canned goods.
I said the closest thing to hunting I've done is scroll Nashville Guru for dinner recommendations. That's the closest thing to hunting I've done.
What's available on Uber Eats tonight?
Baby, that's that. You're speaking my love language. All right, 2 excellent SEC stats of the day from our very own Lucas Panzica. Titans training camp practice continues. This is day 8 of open practice for Tennessee out on the field. Day 9 if you count the training camp conditioning test. We'll continue to keep you updated with out on the field as the team drills continued. We will have Kayla Farley and Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio over here at the tent after practice concludes roughly about 11:20 today. So make sure you stick around. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. What is happening? Welcome into 104.5 The Zone on this Friday. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. We are, certainly, because we're out here at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park for Tennessee Titans training camp, day number 8. Offense currently working red zone drills right now in 11 on 11. Practice scheduled to conclude at 11:15 today. We got a lot of Titan season ticket holders out here hanging out. It's good to. We've had people at practice basically every day.
Yeah, I love the Robert Woods jersey we saw, or the Julio Jones jersey we saw with Woods taped over the name.
I saw somebody turn an A.J. Brown jersey into a Traylon Burks jersey by virtue of duct tape.
Do you think it was the fan that told us on the phone a few months ago that he purchased an A.J. Brown jersey at halftime of the Bengals playoff game?
I had forgotten about that. That's a tough scene,
Yeah,
kids.
doesn't get much worse than that.
No, you don't like that at all. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in at any point today. We'll answer. Ooh, nice.
Oh, was that out of bounds, though? High-flying grab in the back of the end zone by Burks.
The defense is saying he was out. The offense is saying he was in.
We'll never know.
Well, all I know is there was a righteous pass interference committed in the back of the end zone on Burks.
By Farley?
Earlier, yes. So we will talk to Kayla Farley about all of these things here in just about 20 minutes from now. But, yeah, we got Music City Grand Prix, Big Machine Music City Grand Prix tickets to give away, VIP passes for all weekend long. Have you seen the footprint downtown yet?
Oh, well, yes. I raced it.
What do you mean you raced it?
On the way to work.
You drove the track to work today?
Absolutely. No, not today. They closed it down 2 days ago, so you haven't been able to go over the bridge and go anywhere that the track is. But, absolutely. As soon as the barriers went up and the grandstand started going up on my 2019 Ford Escape, zipping around Nissan Stadium and over the bridge.
Your 2019 Ford soccer mom.
It doesn't. The engine doesn't quite have the same feel, so I have to make the noises with my mouth as I'm driving. But it's as close as I'll get.
Well, you can get closer than Lucas Panzica did. You can go to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. We'll get you tickets. Just listen. We've got 4 more pairs of tickets to give out throughout the course of the day. Brett had texted me the winner of the first set. Tommy Miles, who won the first set of Big Machine Music City Grand Prix tickets. So congratulations to Tommy and whomever he decides to take with him.
Another AJ jersey debacle phone call.
615-737-1045. Brett, did you say that there's somebody on the line talking about jersey debacles?
Yes, Adam from Gallatin has another not so great AJ Brown jersey story.
All right, Adam, make my day.
Hey, love the show. So my parents ordered me an A.J. Brown jersey for Christmas. It was on back order. I didn't get it until June the 3rd, which was my birthday. And, yeah, he got traded like 2 weeks after that after Cleveland said that as long as he's tenured as head coach, he wasn't going anywhere.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's a tough scene. I bet there are all kinds of horror stories like that of play like Clowney jerseys. Thanks for the call, Adam. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Like the Clowney experience, 8 games of Jadeveon Clowney. How many Titans Clowney collector's edition jerseys do you think are wandering around out there?
Yeah, on the clearance rack. Find them on the clearance rack.
There's Marcus Mariota. There's Jadeveon Clowney. There's an A.J. Brown.
Maybe a Vic Beasley buried in there somewhere.
How short our time was together. He's doing actually pretty cool work in the community. I should be nicer to Vic Beasley, even though his on-field career here was not what you would deem any kind of a success. So in keeping with the conversation that we've been having this week and focusing a lot on the defensive backs, I think that what we're seeing from Racing McMath warrants a little further discussion. Because Lucas had brought up the idea that, Josh Malone's out here making plays. We had referenced, speaking to Rob Moore yesterday, the wide receivers coach, about what he is looking for in the 11-on-11 in the 7-on-7 versus individual drills, meeting rooms, and all these things. It's a combination of all of them that gets you a roster spot. But for a guy like Racing McMath, who I don't know what necessarily the ceiling is for Racy. You would know this better than I. His career at LSU was also marred by injury. And he was considered to be one of these high-end LSU wide receiver prospects, but just never got the opportunities on the field. There were things that derailed him. It ended up being a super unsatisfactory tenure in his 3 years at college, other than special teams, which was the reason that John Robinson the biggest reason John Robinson cited when we did the post-draft press conference after they picked Racey in the 7th round.
His best year at LSU, 2019, 17 catches, 285 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Right. So what happened there?
Well, and that's the national championship season. Injuries had something to do with it. He went from playing in 10 games to 2019 to 5 games in the 2020 COVID year where he had 14 catches, 195 yards, 1 touchdown. So he's over 500 yards and 4 scores in his college career. I mean, he was behind several good receivers at LSU. I mean,
give me the rest of the wide receivers on that championship team.
I mean, Justin Jefferson comes to mind.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase comes to mind.
Pretty
so to
good.
even have that role that he had in 2019 is impressive in and of itself. But he dealt with injuries. He dealt with quarterback turnover, especially in that 2020 season when LSU just was not good in the COVID year coming off the national title season. If Racey McMath turns into a productive NFL wide receiver, it will be a phenomenal developmental job by wide receivers coach Rob Moore.
So, because we kind of talked to Rob about this yesterday, and I wish that I had the foresight to send Brett the audio earlier. But basically, how far somebody like Nick Westbrook-Akina has come in the time that Rob Moore has had to work with him. And I think if you're looking for best case scenario, and we may have touched on this earlier at some point in the week, I can't recall. But I think in a best-case scenario, somebody's going to have to assume a more substantive special teams role that NWI was previously occupying. Because he is going to be one of your primary wide receivers. I don't need to get caught up in wide receiver 1 or 2 or X or Z, starters, all these different things. But I think as it becomes more evident that NWI is going to see a substantial amount of reps, then somebody has to assume the role that he previously occupied. And I think if you have a more athletic version of NWI in Racey, I don't know that there could be a better case scenario as far as the concerns about depth at the wide receiver spot.
He has all the intangibles, every physical trait you could possibly need. And if you can get a deep threat out of Racey McMath, a guy who can get behind the defense with that frame, 6'3", 220 pounds.
He's a big boy.
As I pull up the roster. But that's what he's been in camp this year. I mean, every time he's made a play, every time you've looked up and seen number 13, kind of turning heads, it's been down the field. It's been behind the defense.
And that has certainly been the case in these last couple of days, as Lucas mentioned. They're running, it looks like, I don't even know what, these aren't called gassers. Kirby would probably know this, but he corrected me the other day when I called something a gasser, and it was not, in fact, that. But they're doing conditioning. It would appear to be near the end of practice.
Hey, I've got the Rob Moore audio.
Rob Moore talking about Nick Westbrook-Akina or Racey, Brett?
Development of receivers.
Okay, the development of the receivers under Rob Moore. Let's hear from the wide receivers coach.
I guess it's 6 in one, half dozen the other. I think, what having a true number 1 gives you is someone who, in clutch situations that you can lean on. But I think in this situation, we're developing guys to be able to step up in those situations. I think we have the guys in our group that'll step up and be able to give us what we need to win football games.
So that was Rob Moore yesterday speaking about the development process of wide receivers and what is the value of a true number 1 player in the sense that a lot of football fans talk about the need for a true number 1 wide receiver, and you hear it from the coach. I mean, it kind of keeps in line with Vrabel's mantra of I would rather not be a coach who relies so much on talent as opposed to the fundamentals and the coaching and the discipline and the versatility that they try to pride themselves on in their roster construction, and I think that's kind of more evidence of that.
Racey McMath was drafted where? Was he a 7th-round pick for the Titans?
Racey, a 7th-round pick if memory serves.
Yeah, I mean, that would be right up there as far as value picks in John Robinson's time here.
I think he was the last pick in that draft class because Brady Breeze, who they took over, our guy, Trey Smith. Trey Smith in the 6th round.
Racey was a 6th-round pick, yeah.
6th round, okay. 6, because they didn't have a 7th-round pick.
Right.
Okay, I got it straight now. But he was still the last selection in that draft class.
Yeah.
Of their 2 6th-round picks. Brady Breeze, the other, who I think made it about halfway through the season before they released him and he ended up, or waived him, and he ended up on the Detroit Lions roster, I think, to end the year.
Yeah, and remember, McMath had an IR stint in his rookie year.
Yeah, he did. So we really don't have the most full picture. But anyway, practice is concluding. They are huddling up at midfield.
Kayla Farley is going to come over to the tent and hang out with us as soon as they do. Coach Mack as well. Stick around. A lot of good football talk coming live from Titans training camp here on 104.5 The Zone.
All right.
Buck, Spring Hill.
Yep.
Blaine Bishop's Ball State Cardinals. What? As they kick off the new college football season. Continuous coverage all day today with kickoff at 6 on Nashville's home for the Vols. 104.5 The Zone.
If your business has a
This is why Kirby's the best, because instead of just letting me continue to complain about it, Kirby went out and found the solution.
Now he's programming the radio show. As we continue, what are you pointing at? Oh, Kayla Farley.
Kayla Farley's
Get ready.
headed over
Okay,
here.
very good. We will.
I was going to go with Nazareth, but he talked me off the list.
Well, I'm glad. I don't know I don't know any of the references that you've made, but I know that it's all with good intention.
It's really old, too.
Practice just wrapped up. Caleb Farley's going to sit down here with us once Kirby gets settled in. What's going on, big dog? Good to see you. Appreciate you stopping by. A good practice out here on the field for both sides, hugely competitive. Keeping an eye on these 7-on-7, 11-on-11 drills. What's happening, stud?
What's going on?
How you been?
I've been great. How you been?
Man, we're doing all right. We're just enjoying the football in front of us.
Oh, yeah, I'm enjoying playing.
Yeah, this has to be, reinvigorating is probably the wrong word, but I have to imagine last year, Caleb, it just kind of dulls your senses as you're waiting for the recovery and trying to keep sharp on your drills, but you're not able to actually participate in the football. Like, this has to really kind of re-energize you.
Absolutely. I mean, not being able to play the game you love will really motivate you. It'll have you antsy, sitting still, just itching to play football again, and just to be out here in cleats and to run around and to be able to use some of your athletic gifts that God blessed you with is such a blessing that I'm grateful for.
Man, it's been evident out there. Your whole unit has been performing at a high level. The defense has looked very, very competitive. How would you kind of assess the progress through, what are we, 10 days almost into camp?
We're working to get better. Guys are working hard. Guys are coming in every day to improve, and the leaders we have on this defense, like Jeff Simmons and Kevin Byard and, David Long and stuff, they hold everybody to a high standard. And, we just try to come in and work hard for each other and to play high-level football.
Caleb Farley hanging out here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Titans have just wrapped up practice for the day. How would you define this defense, Caleb, or is it too early to do that, given that we're still in training camp? I know that Vrabel wants a certain identity. I know he wants you guys to play with certain fundamentals. Hell, I think they're all strapped across the side of the field here. Full tilt to it's literally circled in red highlighter, the full tilt to the tackle thing. But for you, how would you kind of define the group as it's currently constructed?
I can say everybody on the defensive side of the ball really doesn't get into defining or predicting or, trying to label us verbally as one thing or not. We just focus on working and improving and letting whatever happens. That's the game we play. That's the business we're in. It's a prove it every day type of deal, and that's just what we're out here to do.
No, and that's the right mind. I can see Vrabel smiling somewhere in the background because that's exactly the approach that I know that they want you guys to have at this point. Where have you enjoyed the competition most out here? Because we see you competing against all kinds of different guys on the offense. The offense has looked sharp on certain days. You guys have played up to that standard. Where have you enjoyed the competition the most?
I think the competition is really good. Of course I enjoy going up against and covering our wide receivers and trying to make plays on the ball. But just the overall learning curve of, being helping in the run, just being mentally aware of what's going on with formations and schemes and different kind of concepts and executing our defensive calls. That's been something that I've kind of tried to improve on the most and taking pride in. And so, but of course I love, trying to make plays on the ball and guarding our receivers. But just the overall execution of showing up every day and being a professional football player.
Well, that recognition, it has to allow you to just play more comfortably, to be able to play faster. Is that an accurate assessment?
Absolutely. The more you just know what to do and what your teammates are going to do, the faster it can help you play. And you're able to relax and kind of just be more comfortable and see your keys with your eyes and play fast.
The vast majority of people listening to the radio show, they haven't had the opportunity to see you guys working yet. They will next week when you travel to Baltimore in some form or fashion for whomever ends up participating in the preseason game. But for the audience listening at home who's excited about the football season getting ready to start, what can you tell them about the offense that you're competing against on a regular basis?
We're excited with the fans, and we're out here working hard to prepare to win games, to try to win games. So we're right there with you.
Robert Woods, it seems, as you guys have kind of worked through your individual recovery processes, you got a lot of time. You've gotten the opportunity to spend a lot of time with each other and working on each other's craft and bouncing off concepts and ideas and techniques off one another. How has that been for you over the course of the last couple of weeks?
Oh, it's been great. It's been awesome. Robert's a great teammate. a very smart football mind. He's very savvy, very, very slick, and he's just been awesome to be around inside the locker room and on the field. He's helped me become a better person and a better football player.
I can't imagine how invaluable something like that is because, I mean, at this level, obviously, I'm not telling anybody anything that they don't know, but the nuance of the receivers and the route craft are at such a higher level, so much more precise. I have to think that Robert, given how much time that he's spent in the league, has been almost indispensable for you in that way.
Yeah, definitely indispensable. Even him just being able to bounce ideas off of me and share with me what he dislikes a corner doing or what causes him problems, or in certain situations what he doesn't want me to do is even extremely helpful to me. So like I said, Robert's a great teammate for him to come in and for us to be working, like he said, running hills together, and just to take me under his wing in that type of role, because he doesn't have to, but just for him to go that extra mile to help me in my growth and my development and learn my story, it means a lot to me.
Titans corner Kayla Farley hanging out here with us after practice, having just wrapped up today. For Titans fans, there's a lot of excitement about your group and the competition. I think there's so many different ways that you guys can deploy defensively across the board, particularly with the amount of versatile skill sets that you have in your secondary. That seems like it's going to be one of the biggest assets for this defense moving forward. Also having the opportunity to play behind the front like you guys have.
Absolutely. I feel like we got a lot of great players in a lot of great spots. But talent doesn't win football games, or at least our coach doesn't want to depend on talent to win football games. We got to execute. We got to put the work in, and we got to come out here and just play good ball and play for each other, and everything else will take care of itself.
I feel like, and maybe this is just a product of being out here and observing it from the untrained eye, but I haven't seen you guys put together 2 bad days in a row or 2 less than crisp days in a row. It felt like it's maintained this energy throughout the course of the 8 practices that we've been able to witness anyway.
Absolutely. I feel like, that's what fall camp is about. Of course, the defense doesn't want to ever come out here and give up plays or anything like that. But it's a fight. You get hit and you got to be able to punch back. So we just come out here to get everybody better, to get each other better, and iron sharpens iron. And, everybody's trying to define their role on the team and prepare for this season.
I mean, we talk a lot of football, obviously, and you spend a lot of time answering football questions. But, how are you settling into the city? This is now a more relaxed and natural environment for you. Does it start to feel a little more like home?
Yeah, it feels a lot more like home, just being in the same spot now for a little over a year now. A lot more comfortable, know the area a lot more. So I'm able to kind of just relax and enjoy the city and come in and, enjoy the organization, really.
Well, it's cool that they're doing a lot of, and they typically do this at this time of year, but doing a lot of activities with you guys when you have some downtime, but still doing it together, like not WrestleMania. I've made that mistake twice now, Kirby. SummerSlam. Y'all look like you had a great time at SummerSlam.
It was great. I got some of the best videos on my phone.
Do you? I saw KB over Logan Paul after he flew off the ropes there.
Yeah.
And slammed the Miz on top of him.
I seen KB was over there, so I had to sneak my way over there for the Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar match. So I got some pretty good footage. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
How many people sent you the screenshot of you in the background of Kid Rock?
A lot. A lot. I didn't even realize what was going on or what was happening.
No, you can't. It's in the moment.
And then I just seen action in front of me, and it was something.
That's the definition of a bang bang play, kids.
Yeah.
Kayla Farley hanging out with us now. This is the first time that we've had the opportunity to have you on the radio show, and we appreciate you stopping by. But you've kind of become a little bit of a cult hero on the radio show because you delivered one of the best lines that I've ever heard in a press conference. Brett, back in the studio, can we play for Caleb the drop that we use way too many times on this program?
Yeah, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
I'm telling you, buddy, anytime we are passionate about anything, that funny. Drop plays. That was the Zoom era still. I about fell out of my chair with the strength that you came to. I can't even remember what the question was.
It was about recovering from the back injury.
Yeah. Being ready for campers, something to that effect. But the strength to which you answered that question.
Yeah. Hey, that's hilarious. That's just me being me. And me, of course, I truly always give my hats off to, my Savior, Jesus Christ, and God. that, that's the reason why I'm still here, still going, all the trials and tribulations that I've been through. I've really fought through some dark storms and some dark times, but I'm still grateful, and I still feel, energized and strengthened to come out here and give it my all and play. So that was just me being young, excited to be drafted. I didn't want to think nothing negative. I didn't want to hear nothing about my bag, nothing about timelines. I was just eager to get up here. So I think that's funny.
You successfully shook the vultures off like me in the press conference from paying attention to anything but how you came.
That's good.
Came with that answer. Caleb, I appreciate you hanging out, man. This is
no
fun.
problem.
That's Kayla Farley here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Coach Dave McGinnis is going to be over here at some point as we wrap up practice today, and we'll get Coach Mack's practice observations coming off the field. He's been out here. Mack watches defense from a certain angle. I'm looking at him now. Look at him. Just preening. He's strutting.
He waved you off.
He waved me. He said, I'll be back. So we've been out here on the field. We've been out here on the field every day, obviously, and like the television channels are out here. And John Burton asked me to do a News Channel 5 thing yesterday with him. And so I did. He was telling me that they asked Mack to do one. They asked Mack to do one of these, like, digital 5-minute shorts or whatever for News Channel 5. And Mack just turned around and looked at Bert and said, bleep you.
What a king.
I'm not doing that. You think I'm at your beck and call? Bleep you. Get out of here. Now, Mack would never tell that story himself on air, so perhaps I've betrayed a confidence. But Will is shaking his head vigorously that I have betrayed.
It's a common theme. Almost as common a theme as rebuke that in the name of Jesus is betraying confidences on this show.
The legend of Coach Dave McGinnis growing.
Indeed. Sure. Will Bowling, what can you tell us about what you observed at practice today?
Man, I'll tell you what, 2 good days in a row for Reising McMath.
Yes.
2 days in a row where he is getting behind the defense. He is making plays. I think he's making this team, as it stands right now, as a special team guy who can be a vertical threat within this offense. It's a very realistic thing to think about at this point. There was one really good throw Ryan Tannehill had over Christian Fulton to McMath. It was in the end zone, about a 40, 50-yard pass. Wasn't able to come down with it, but it was one of those plays where you could say all 3 guys made a good play in that moment. Ryan Tannehill had a good throw. Reising McMath high-pointed the ball and was in good position to make the play. And then Christian Fulton just batted it out at the last minute and made a really good play as they were going to the ground. So good stuff there. Kyle Phillips continues to make noise with the ones.
Yeah.
Saw him in 2-minute drill right at the end of practice today. Was one-on-one with Caleb Farley, who's signing autographs and being a good ambassador for the team here next to us. And made a quick out, got out of bounds immediately with about 8 seconds left on the clock. And had a really good play there.
Little toe tap?
It was. It made a play, knew where the sideline was, immediately got out of bounds and got back in the huddle again. So we're seeing him play a lot more with the ones. No Robert Woods on the practice field today. That opened up more opportunities for Traylon Burks, who had one drop over the middle on a pass that was probably a long touchdown from Ryan Tannehill, where he had a step on Farley, hit him in the hands. The throw was a little bit high, couldn't make a play. But I thought those younger receivers took advantage of more reps today with Robert Woods not practicing.
And that's what you hope to see. And I realize the Racy development is a critical, I think, is going to be a critical storyline to kind of monitor as we continue through the next couple of weeks of training camp. Oh, now the man himself. Wait, Brett, is it too late to play the music? As Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio saunters over to the
He's got to make the rounds.
It's almost better to have Mac's voice in the background off mic shouting at people like Kirby. We are happy. We have had a fantastic experience out here at training camp, and everybody has been super gracious with their time, including Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio.
Are we all live?
We are live, buddy. We are live and in person.
Get a headset.
Yeah, you got it. You got a headset. There's a lot of people who there's a Go Dogs flag. We got some Georgia Bulldogs.
Yes.
I bet. Oh, you got a paper sign? Very nice.
Nice
and
job.
a towel.
And
outstanding. I hope you guys had a great time. A lot of season ticket holders out here, Mac, having a good time in practice today.
You know, I'm upstairs on the 3rd floor with Mac Perch up there watching.
Mac Perch.
Watching all of this with the fans up there. This has been a fabulous time. I'm so happy. I was just talking to Joey Barranco out there with his family. It's great to see the families back out here.
Yeah.
Because the last 2 years has just been so sterile, and it had to be. But just this is how I remember training camp with the fans, the families, and it's really good. And the Amy Adams Strunk and the Titans have done a wonderful job. This building that we're sitting, below here, where I get to watch practice from upstairs, I mean, there's nothing better.
When you said Mac Perch, I envisioned a plaque somewhere upstairs that specifically says Coach Max Perch that was, contractually negotiated when the building was put together.
Well, I don't know about contractually, but I think Brent Akers is threatened to put a plaque up there like they had in the cafeteria that time when I lost my hamstring to hot dog juice. So,
the details of which are not safe for air.
Well, no, we don't need to tell our listeners. Don't need to know that. They don't want to know that.
I think they do now.
They just know that Mac doesn't bowl or golf anymore. That's about the extent of it.
No, missing one hamstring and one leg.
Amen. Well, Mac, we're happy to have you. We just had Kayla Farley, who was great. We talked a lot about the progress that unit just generally has made, and the sessions 11-on-11, one-on-ones, and what we've seen in 7-on-7, even in the individual stuff, everything has looked hugely competitive.
Well, Rhett and I, we watched from up there together, and Amy Wells has been with us for a couple of times, and we kind of try to concentrate on players now because I can see schemes and stuff that's going on up there. But you talk about Caleb Farley, and I'm glad you had him on today. His transitional skills for a high cut corner are exceptional. And you can see that today. Today one against Traylon one time. Traylon really was in a cut split as an X receiver and really did a nice job of chop clubbing him and missing him at the line of scrimmage, and then tried to run the deep end. But Caleb Farley's reaction ability and plus his ability to redirect, even as high cut as long as he is, he rolled back underneath the route, and cut it off and made Tannehill go somewhere else. Those types of little nuances that you're seeing now from him, he looks to me so much more settled and comfortable than he ever was at any time that he took the field here before, because I don't think he was ever fully healthy and then just fully integrated into what was going on, not only mentally but physically with his body. Now he looks like the dude that I vetted at VTech, and I know what John Robinson and his people saw. This guy has got exceptional transition ability, which is front to back, side to side for a high cut player. If you've got a guy with length that also has that type of transition ability, then you have somebody that's able to take away a lot of things just with reach,
Yeah, and I think when we hear coaches talk about, well, he's done really well in the offseason, and we've been very, very pleased with how he's attacked the classwork and things of that nature, you almost take it with a grain of salt until you physically see the kind of comfort level and just general play speed that he is able to operate with because he is more confident in what he sees.
Yeah, Buck, and you're right. And really, you don't have to be, you don't have to be a trained eye, and you might not even know whether the football's pumped or stuffed. But if you can watch him, you can tell he's comfortable doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And that isn't it. What's up, Matt?
Matt out here. Wide receiver one.
Wide receiver one forever. that to me is something that is so important, and that why I think this has been such a productive camp to this point is that you've got young players, Buck, that are able to stack learning experiences day to day to day, which is the only way that you get better. The only way you get better. I mean, we can just go down the list of them. I mean, you can watch Malik Willis progress. Just watching him, and I love the fact that Vrabel is doing so many 2-minute drills right now, because that gives him a chance to get the clock in his head in tune with his feet, with what he's seen, and when he needs to release it. And even some of the throws that he made today, even though they weren't completed, they were to the right spot and they were on the right time, and that's progress.
Well, and I'm glad that you transitioned there. By the way, Mac presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans, as is all of Titans Radio's fantastic coverage and all the content they produce, as well as the Titans Amy and Coach Mac podcast, which is available wherever you get your podcasts. Malik talked to us the other day, Mac, about marrying his eyes and his feet.
That's everything.
Which I'm glad that you articulated that, because to hear him talk about it, he's saying, I'm processing things fine. And that's something Vrabel and O'Hara talked to us yesterday about, too. He's processing things fine. It's just about getting his feet in line with what he's processing in real time. And I think that's kind of what we've observed through the 8 days we've seen.
Well, you absolutely have. And, I mean, it's so fundamental and so vital for young quarterbacks coming into this league. Because, unless you've got just exceptional rubber band ability with like Mahomes and some of these guys that can throw so much off schedule, like Rodgers does, like Favre used to do. But I mean, those are exceptional people, with exceptional arm gifts. Yeah. But to be able to marry the bottom part, I mean, it helps so much with accuracy. It also helps with velocity, and it also helps with timing. Being able to get it off in time, but you've got to be able to marry the bottom part, because that's where all your power comes from. I mean, all of our listeners that know anything about any type of martial arts, any type of competitive, hand-to-hand stuff, face-to-face stuff, boxing, it's all generated from your hips. It's all generated from your hips. And so when you can marry that, and he's got exceptional arm talent.
Yeah.
Rhett and I saw him make a couple of throws today across the field, to the opposite side. You guys saw the same thing. So his arm talent is there, and the rest of it, I mean, he's progressing nicely, and he's in an ideal situation, Buck, because he doesn't have to play.
Right.
He can learn. He doesn't have to play. He can learn. He doesn't have to play. He can learn. And then the fact that we're going to have two teams come in here to practice against, and plus the 3 preseason games, he's going to get a lot of learning experiences in his folder by the time this preseason's over with.
Mac, it's coming up, man. Titans radio coverage begins next Thursday, live from Baltimore. I'm excited.
Yeah, we'll be there. I can reach out and touch the fans on top of the head there in the press box. It'll be good. I've had a couple of them want to climb up in there and get on me, and it's Mike Keith's fault basically, because he yells sack and touchdown Titans really loud. But I try to incite it as much as I can. It's a lot of fun.
They're known to do that in Baltimore.
That's never been more real than it is in Baltimore.
No. It's completely real. I was standing up there with Ozzie Newsome, one game that I was doing when I was doing a game for national radio, and Ozzie came in, and I was talking to Ozzie, and somebody turned around and started walking up there, had a big placard. I thought, Ozzie said, what is going on? I said, well, clearly they want you to sign something. They climbed right into the thing, and they had a picture of me when I was the head coach of the Cardinals. Coach Mack, would you sign this? First of all, that's hardcore fans that have a picture of Coach Mack as the head coach of the Cardinals, and then they just came right over the top of that ledge. So I'm all about Baltimore. I was talking to a couple of our season ticket holders upstairs a couple of days ago that were there, and they said they really felt like when we beat them there in that playoff game, they're going to have to get a police escort out of the place.
Yes. I can eyewitness attest to that. There were Baltimore fans punching other Baltimore fans in the face because they were so frustrated.
Well, because there weren't anybody else to punch. and to me, I mean, I love that environment up there. I really do. Do Lucas and Will Bowling get to talk at all during this? I mean,
would you like them to?
Well, sure. I like these guys.
Go ahead, boys.
I mean, they're both smart guys. I mean, sometimes they do stuff that they need to be pulled back on a little bit.
So when we talk about soccer, basically, is that what you're saying?
No, you know what? I like the soccer. I was talking to some people up there that were big soccer people, offered me a chance to come sit in their suites and stuff. When I would look at that on television, that's got to be an awesome place.
That's incredible.
It's got to be I've got a neighbor that knows one of the players very well, and I mean, that's a cool thing. I think it's really, really good.
Mac, it's the only time in a year and a half of doing the show that they have been deferential to me on the air. It's the only time that they've been have access to microphones and let me do the show.
Well, but they're professionals.
We're upstanding young gentlemen.
Yeah, we just want to hear you talk.
You're both something.
They're professionals. Davey Shepard's a good friend of mine. I really like Davey. I think you guys and Davey do a great job with that. And
thanks, Coach.
I can remember in the offset, we were at Davey's a member at the Standard, and he was there telling me about when this, when the genesis of all this was starting.
Yeah.
And from where it's come to where it is now, I mean, it's a serious following, and I like it a lot. I think it's just good for the environment.
And for all your Nashville SC coverage, you can check out the podcast,
the Nashville Soccer Show,
new
on the
episode,
104.5 The Zone Podcast
New
Network.
episode was out last night. So,
excellent.
Shameless plug.
Subscribe, rate, and review. Mac, quickly before we let you get out of here, and we appreciate your time as always, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. First week in pads, offensive line, defensive line, we start to get a little closer measure of what the competition actually looks like. What were your takeaways? What were your observations from seeing these big guys working?
Well, I mean, I think we know who our guard's going to be, and we know who our tackle's going to be.
Feels that way.
Yeah, and they've done a nice job to me, and the fact that they can be out here and can be Ryan, what's up?
Oh, the media superstar Ryan Cowden making his way around the field. I saw that press conference. We'll put you on a mic. Careful, Cowden.
I like what they're doing. At least they've got some continuity. Now, today you saw Nicholas Petit-Frere working some right tackle today, which I liked. And, you know, I'm up high enough now where I can see all of it unfold, and I like to concentrate on particular people. And Rhett and I were watching Petit-Frere today, so I think that they're on the right path with what they want to do. The thing that's going to be important is when you get up against a different colored jersey, you know, how much can you sustain it?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be really important.
We start to find out next Thursday. Titans Radio will have coverage from Baltimore, of course, post game, and everything in between. Mac, I appreciate you stopping. Why? What did you guys have something?
I was going to give you a news note along those lines. Mike Vrabel's talking to the media right now and just said trying to get a little bit of competition with Dylan Radins at the right tackle spot.
Okay.
This is motivation for putting Nicholas Petit-Frere into the lineup.
And we thought that would be the case.
Right.
You know, when they drafted him. Yeah. Which is exactly what you want. I like what I've seen from Radins.
Yeah,
a lot. I mean, he looks different.
He looks like he's been through an NFL strength and conditioning program.
Thank you. I mean, you're spot on. You don't need me here. You said that.
Like that.
We always need you here, Coach Mack.
We always need Coach Mack, and we're grateful for his presence every Friday and, of course, across the station.
Kirby, how'd you go this whole thing without saying something? Turn yourself on.
My mic was off.
I know it was, but you know who controls those mics.
I do. I'm always going to give you front and center. I want to listen to you talk.
So it's your fault nobody else is talking.
Well, no, it's your stories. I'm always engaged when he's telling something.
Kirby and I, you know, especially when we were doing the Mac Talk show from Disc Insider, we had some great experiences there.
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
It was a great time. They let their dogs in there, so I was doing the show with dogs in my lap all the time. I'd bring a dog over. People would come up, what's your dog's name? Bring it over here.
It will surprise no one to learn that Coach Mack has like a special dog whisperer touch with any canine within the area.
Bring it over.
Animals are lining up 2 by 2 across the street.
Just like the kids that want autographs with Coach Mack. Yeah. Dogs also line up in the same single file line.
Like Noah's Ark.
Pretty soon, all the 50-year-old moms in the neighborhood were like borrowing dogs and coming down there to come through.
Brother.
When we were there, Kirby started saying, Mac, there's one over there. Mac, I think you'll like this one over here. Mac, there's one over here. So enjoyed it, guys.
In the Titans radio booth, Brian is the spotter. On remote, it's Kirby Allen Kirby.
Hey, 20 minutes, never enough for Coach Mac's stories on 104.5 The Zone, which is why I sat down with him on Inside Zone last week, a couple of weeks ago. That came out on Monday on the 104.5 The Zone podcast network. It was a fantastic conversation.
Check it out.
That was fun. Thank you for doing that.
No, thank you, Coach. Really enjoyed it.
Well, we can do another one.
Oh, we will.
I got a few more stories.
Mac Part 2 in 2023.
I've been doing this a while. See you guys.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, Coach.
That's Coach Mack. Mike Vrabel's at the podium. You'll hear from him next.
you. Will Bowling has sat down with us. A little Love and Happiness by Al Green. Well done, Brett Batchelor, back at the 104.5 The Zone studios. It feels like that's been the vibe out here at training camp. Very much a Friday feeling out here at Titans
I would
practice.
say so. Not a whole lot going on today. I mean, obviously the clouds overhead, the threat of rain kind of cooled us down a little bit.
Yeah.
I also think you should take your victory lap on Buck because you were accused of jinxing the weather earlier this week by many. Not me, but some. And your response was that I have no control over these things. And sure enough, the weather has continued to be quite delightful ever since you said that it had been really good.
I have been proven right by that because you're right. We've had like spurts in the final hour of the show where the sun has bared down a little bit, but not so much that it just exhausts you. So it's been fantastic in the early portion of camp. We're about a week and a half in here. Mike Vrabel just spoke to media. Taylor Lewan has left the podium, and another Titans player is up there as well. Trying to get a read on
David
who that
Long.
is. David Long, inside linebacker David Long. A little bit of news to do with that position group today as Dylan Cole, an important depth piece right now in that room, was helped off the practice field during team drills and limped back to the locker room, although he did walk off on his own power and did not return. So Will Bowling with us again here out at Titans training camp. Practice is over. We just sat down with second-year corner Kayla Farley, and he was great. Talked about bouncing ideas off of Robert Woods as they rehabbed together, recovering from ACL tears that they suffered kind of within a similar window, I think within about a month of each other. Robert Woods talked a lot about it when he spoke to the media last week about rehabbing with Caleb Farley, what he thought about Farley as a player. I thought it was interesting hearing Farley tell us about what he's learned from Robert Woods, telling him what he doesn't like from a wide receiver's perspective, going up against an outside corner. Those guys, I think, have really been bouncing off of each other through the early portion of camp. And a veteran guy who's been in this league for a decade plus versus a second-year guy who really is getting his first full offseason, full healthy training camp for the first time in his career.
Yeah, I think he didn't have his best day yesterday. Had a couple of more catches on him than he would have liked in Red Zone 7-on-7. I think Caleb Farley had a really good day today. Had a good pass breakup on Traylon Burks at one point. It was a comeback route to the right side. Coach Mack was actually referencing it when he made the comment that he made that Burks kind of chopped him off the line a little bit. But Farley's arms are just so long. He's got an equalizer there that he can lose positioning a little bit, but he's got really, really good recovery in those transition phases like Coach Mack was talking about. But his arms are just so long. He can get worse position and still make a play. And that's going to be one of his strengths at that position for the Titans. Red zone at the end of practice, Kyle Phillips gets a catch on him on an out route over to the sidelines. We mentioned that.
On Farley.
On Caleb Farley. So then you have about 15 seconds left. And I was talking to Austin Stanley about this. There were people responding to the A to Z Sports Twitter thread thinking, like, I'm nervous. Like, this is like a 1-versus-1 2-minute drive. And they were tweeting out play-by-play. And it had the feeling of, go win the football game. Mike Vrabel telling the offense, we want you in the end zone. You got 8 seconds at this point where they had 2 plays. So the play after Phillips' out route, they don't get out of bounds. It was a Hilliard pass to the right side. Hilliard gets up. They're quick on the ball. And Tannehill immediately gets on the ball. There's no check. They've had 2 plays called at this point, it appears. Gets the snap, takes a look to his right, and immediately throws a goal line fade to Traylon Burks. Burks on Farley. I don't think this was pass interference. It might have been. I don't think it was. But Farley gets excellent positioning. He boxes out Traylon Burks. It's near side, near pylon on the right hash. So making a really short throw outside the numbers. Farley boxes him out, doesn't give Traylon Burks an opportunity to make the catch. There was 1 second left after that point. Mike Vrabel calling a timeout on the defense, saying, you guys have now been out there. The defense has seen what set you're in. Now we're going to change it coming out of the timeout and see what we can do. 1 second, go win the ball game. 7-yard line, right hash. And Ryan Tannehill gets it. He looks at Traylon Burks all the way, tries to get it to Burks in the back of the end zone, running on a slant from the right side. Makes the catch, but it's out of bounds, and Farley is there to push him out and be physical through the end of the route in order to push him out. So I thought that was a really good 2-play sequence for Caleb Farley specifically. Just a couple of plays after giving up the out route to Kyle Phillips that stopped the clock.
He's had a good camp against some of the best receivers on this Titans roster. And when you look at the wide receiver room, where it stands right now, as I see in the YouTube chat, JTB says, I just don't think 3 quarterbacks sounds very Vrabel-esque.
It doesn't.
He's going to want those roster spots to be usable and versatile. And you're right, but if the 53-man roster is announced today, Ryan Tannehill, Logan Woodside, and Malik Willis are on it.
100%.
Because Logan Woodside's the backup quarterback right now. When
Yeah.
you look at the mountain that Willis has to climb in his development, and as a third-round pick, you're not going to take that risk of putting Malik Willis on the practice squad. So that means that will cost somebody their job, and it could come at the wide receiver position. When you look at it right now, tell me if you agree with this. As it stands, Treylon Burks, if you're making the 53-man roster today,
Yep.
Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Kyle Phillips, Racey McMath, with Malone being the question mark.
I think I would agree with that.
And there's flexibility there because of the
there
options
is.
you have at the tight end position with pass catchers there. Austin Hooper and Chigakonkwo give the Titans an element at that position they did not have last year.
I think right now it's a battle between Des Fitzpatrick and Racey McMath for the final spot on this Tennessee Titans roster at wide receiver. I think that's what it comes down to. Des Fitzpatrick has been really well spoken of this offseason by Mike Vrabel, by others on this coaching staff. He's had some good days. He's had some bad days. Racey McMath hasn't really had a bad day. Every time we look up, he's making a play that we're not expecting. Different skill sets, different things that they can do in addition to playing the wide receiver position. But that's where if you're carrying a third quarterback, you're going to have to be able to do something else. Kyle Phillips is going to be this team's punt returner, in my opinion. I think Dontrell Hilliard ends up being the kick returner. But outside of that, what McMath brings you as a gunner, what he brings as a tackler, as a deep threat, I just think right now, the amount of times we've seen him lined up as the one receiver in the formation with three tight ends on the field, it's telling to me. I think this coaching staff trusts him, and I think at the end of the day, Fitzpatrick is probably that first guy out instead of Malone. I don't think Malone makes this team. I think Malone is stashed on the practice squad if they can help it, but I think it's between Des Fitzpatrick and Racey McMath right now.
Another interesting position battle to talk about that we haven't really referenced in a few days, the right tackle spot. Head coach Mike Vrabel spoke to the media a few minutes ago, had some interesting things to say about the battle that's happening there with one rookie in particular. We'll listen to Vrabel talk about that, and we'll give away some more tickets to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix and the Zone General Jackson VIP experience with us on Sunday. Stay posted. Hour 3 of the Buck Reising Show coming up live from Titans training camp on 104.5 The Zone.
here on a Friday. Welcome in to 104.5 The Zone. I'm stealing Will Bowling's, is it a catchphrase?
I would say so. Words to live by.
It's a good one.
All right, 3rd and 5.
I like it. It makes me happy when Brett in my ear in the second hour says second down. I like these things.
I'm glad you liked it.
Football references on a sports show, kids. How about that?
Who's to say?
Who's to say? Let's get nuts. Kirby Allen Kirby is here. Lucas Panzica is here. We've had a lot of fun so far. Titans taking the day off tomorrow on the practice field, and they will be back on Sunday. Now, Mac brought up something earlier that I'd like to kind of circle back around to. Coach Mac had, and I believe he said this last week when I had bubble duty with you guys, that they felt it had become evident who the starting offensive linemen are. Brewer at left guard, Radens at right tackle. Until today, when you saw Nicholas Petit-Frere getting some of the reps that have been most consistently going to Dylan Radens. Now, Mike Vrabel gave a brief answer on that today as to why that was the case, and this was the head coach who spoke about 20 minutes ago at the podium.
Just to, I think it was pretty much something we trying to do just to make sure that everybody's having a chance, that Nick and Dylan are competing, and we'll see where that goes here through the rest of the preseason.
So he's just trying to find ways to motivate Radens.
Yeah, just trying to create competition.
Well, and sometimes that's necessary because you can start to fall into a lull. I mean, we talked to David Long earlier about how do you kind of maintain your body, your physical condition during the slog of camp, because you're not only trying to prevent its massive weight loss for the amount that these dudes sweat out on the field for the allotted practice time that they are allowed to participate in, but it's about as much about the recovery process physically and mentally to allow yourself to stay on point, to allow yourself to stay sharp. And if you start to lull into habits and you start to kind of settle into your spot, you feel like, okay, this is now my job to lose. It becomes a situation where, okay, it's not like that, bud. You haven't earned this outright yet. We are early on in camp. We are still within the first week. Okay, Nick, go take some snaps. And that's what it felt like today.
I mean, how much of a push do you feel he has made?
What, Radens?
Petit-Frere.
I mean, I think they like the idea. I think they like the idea that when Lawan had to come out for a couple of snaps, they didn't have to tell Nick to go in. Like Nick just ran out there to play left tackle.
Okay.
Like I think it can be both things. It can be, okay, we need to kind of wake Dylan up a little bit. He's starting to kind of walk through these, and I don't know specifically. I don't want to speak for the coaching staff. I'm just saying, like, the premise would be, okay, Dylan looks like he could use a little bit more edge. Let's give Nick some of his snaps to kind of re-energize Dylan, but also because Nick has done the things that we like to see in practice that would allow him to earn additional reps. I think it can be both things.
Yeah, Coach Mack said with us on Friday, as you pointed out, I expect Dylan Radens to be the right tackle for this football team.
And it would seem that Dylan Radens, too, expects to be the right tackle for this football team. So, which is all well and good, and he may well earn the job, but in the meantime, they want to keep him. They want to kind of keep him on his toes. That's the job of coaching. That's how you continue to keep them focused. I'll make them finish detailed, completely highlighted and circled, full tilt to the tackle, and all manner of other football cliches that propagate the field out here. And you read it along the sideline. You just hear it in Vrabel's voice. It's kind of eerie. 615-737-1045. You can jump in on the conversation if you like. So as we get ready to kind of conclude week 2, what do we feel that we learned, or what do you feel like you learned the most about your football team at this point? I'd be curious to hear from people. And in fact, as a carrot to engage and further a little Titans discussion, why don't we give some tickets away for people who bring us the best observations about what they have been able to witness. Some people, season ticket holders who've been out here on the field of practice, people who have seen clips, who have learned more from Jimmy Wyatt's reports or our discussions here. What do you feel you've learned most through the first 2 weeks of Titans camp? If you give us an observation that we find particularly intriguing, we will send you to the Music City, the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix all weekend long, apparently, with the ability to access the VIP party on the General Jackson, hosted by Lucas Panzica and myself on Sunday, August the 7th, 615-737-1045. I feel that I have learned that I think Kayla Farley is going to end up being the top corner in some form or fashion for this defense. Even as there's not a body of work for me to evidence that by, I feel that what I'm seeing from him technically in practices and what he brings with physical gifts that cannot be coached or taught or any of these things, I feel that he is their best player at the corner position, even as I really like Christian Fulton and what he brings to the table. So I feel that that's what I've learned.
He will become their best their top corner.
I believe
right
that
now Christian Fulton is CB1 for this football team.
I would say that's accurate, yes, but I think that he's still – I mean, again, I want to see sustained play from Fulton. There was not – we're a week removed from Christian Fulton getting frustrated by being – and listen, you get beaten one-on-ones. It's okay to get frustrated. It's how you respond on the next rep or whatever the case may be. But we are not far removed from Christian Fulton committing penalties at one-on-ones because he's being beaten. Not just getting beaten, but committing penalties out of frustration. That's not something that I want to see from a top corner. I think that can kind of speak to some youth. I think that can kind of speak to some inexperience. And I think that is what I'm kind of looking to see more from Christian Fulton. I love the skill set of the player. I love what he brings to the defense. I think that Kayla Farley is the more talented player at the position. But, you heard Farley parrot the Vrabel thing about not relying solely on talent.
I feel like we've learned that this wide receiver core is healthy, A, and most importantly, and B, quietly building confidence. And I say quietly because there's still several players, and I'll lump the tight ends in with this as pass catchers, that have not taken an NFL snap, that Kyle Phillips and Traylon Burks and Chiga Okonkwo, but they've been out there and grabbing headlines every day at training camp. Every day we talk about Kyle Phillips and his increased reps with the ones. Every day we talk about Traylon Burks, although today we did talk about him in a negative light with kind of a bobble drop in the middle of the field after beating Caleb Farley. But I think there is a quiet confidence building within this wide receiver core in that they're not going to be talked about on NFL Network and around the league. It's just not going to happen. But every narrative that we have taken away from that group has been positive. We have not sat here and talked about who's going to be the third guy in this core. I mean, do they have 5 wide receivers that you're confident can even make the 53-man roster? That has not been the case.
It really hasn't. William.
For me, I think it's that a post-pandemic rookie class is much more suited to have a big impact early. This is the first time probably since 2019 that I feel like the rookies have been this active and this prevalent this early into the process, and that was not the case during the pandemic for guys who hadn't played football the year before, in Dylan Radins and Caleb Farley, and guys who are coming off of injuries. And to me, that's the biggest thing. I think this rookie class is going to have an impact early and often with this team this season, and they're going to have to, considering some of the pieces that this team has lost, specifically at the wide receiver position. And I think Kyle Phillips and Traylon Burks being as comfortable as they are with the ones at this point in the process is a little bit of a surprise to me, and it shows that this evaluation process is so much easier, and it is so much easier to get these guys involved early and often when they aren't going through virtual film study and virtual practices as they begin to be integrated into the squad.
But even, 19 was different. 2019 was different because Marcus was still the starting quarterback in camp. So it was so much more about Marcus than it was about the wide receivers, about AJ's rookie year, about Corey Davis and that would have been year 3, heading into season 3 at that point.
And your first-round pick, obviously, in Simmons, you're not expecting to see for weeks at that point.
There was a much larger conversation, a much larger focal point on the quarterback, which, of course, envelops every other conversation around it. But, Corey Davis's rookie year did not go this smoothly. As far as the integration process, Taywan Taylor was not certainly that. Even though I think he continues to make a professional career out of USFL football.
Yeah.
When last I saw.
The guy out of that group that we were talking about as being a good rookie target was Tajay Sharp at the time, when he was the big guy at camp and then had good preseason games and had a decent rookie season. It was never the big names that early.
What did you say, Brett?
Taywan Taylor spent last season playing for the New Orleans Breakers in the USFL.
Did he really?
Yes, he did.
Yes,
I'm telling you, it's the only USFL football I watched. I just happened to turn it on, and there was Taywan Taylor grinning at me with his giant basketball-sized hands.
Titans legend.
I went to the USFL opener in Birmingham. It was a good time.
615-737-1045. What do you feel you learned most about the Titans through the first 2 weeks of training camp? You give us the best observation or the observation that you think is least discussed. We'll reward you with some Big Machine Music City Grand Prix VIP tickets, baby. We'll do your phone calls on this next.
The Buck.
Bringing you on in 3, 2.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
See, now Brett's cheating because he knows I like this song.
I knew it.
He's used it before. You're not. I'm on to your game here.
It's called knowing the system.
Hey, man, I can't get mad. I am only in my chair because of the way that I have gamed the system successfully to convince people that I have some kind of competency about me. We are hanging.
Kirby says that's true.
Turn your damn microphone on. You're so useless when you contribute
Meaning
off-air content.
Well, I like to make you laugh without necessarily sharing all that. 'Cause that was a bit abrasive, but in a loving way.
Yeah, I kind of like it when it's just an echo that you might hear off mic.
It's not productive. I need, if we're going to do bits with Kirby has to be heard.
All right, Monday I'm carrying darts. I'm bringing lawn darts out here Monday.
Wait, I was about to say, which kind of darts?
We'll wait till practice is over and see how maneuverable you are.
Kirby's just been out here spotting bird. We've developed a friend. He's still here. He's behind you, Kirby.
I love this bird.
We have a pet bird.
He's hanging out. He wants his Pepsi.
Well, I mean, it's certain. He's been surviving off whatever lives in the St. Thomas Sports Park trash cans. It's probably half Pepsi. He's probably hooked on caffeine. We're probably dealing with some kind of bird with a caffeine addiction at this point. It reminds me of the Denver Broncos Marcus Mariota benched game in 2019, where the most exciting thing about that game is they lost 16-0 against Joe Flacco. Was a pigeon that would not stop following around Ryan Tannehill on the field. I think the pigeon was high.
Do you realize how often you reference that game?
I hate that game.
You talk about it so much. I think you talk about that game more than any other game you've ever covered for the Titans.
It's the worst game of my life. It's the worst game of my professional career.
Well, then quit reminding yourself about it.
No, but that's the things that, it's like my wiring as a sports person. Like, I'm more prone to remember the things that have caused me great suffering and great anguish in my sports life as opposed to the happy moments, like most people.
Kirby is giving the bird exactly what it wants.
Yeah, we got a little piece of bread that the bird is now vibing on.
Kirby's like throwing the bread into the path of the lawnmower. This thing is going to end up in a puff of feathers.
No! So 2018 Baltimore was worse than 2019 Denver?
2018 Baltimore was 21-0. Marcus Mariota. What was there, 9 sacks?
Yeah.
No, they're more than 9 sacks.
2019 Denver is about as low as it gets for me.
I think there were 11.
There were 11. I think it tied an NFL regular season high.
Yeah,
and then you had the Jacksonville game where Nate Davis had a 30 grade on PFF from with the Adoree Jackson muffed punt game.
Yeah.
When Lawan was still suspended.
That was Jamil Douglas. That was pre-Nate Davis.
Joe Flacco.
No, Nate Davis played in that game and had, I swear to you, a 30 PFF grade.
Oh, God.
Joe Flacco.
Associated with both.
That was the first game that he played, yeah.
That's amazing.
Joe Flacco associated with both. He was the Ravens quarterback when they beat the Titans 21-0, and he was the Broncos quarterback.
Was he really?
They were terrible.
Yeah. Was it not Simeon?
No.
I want to say Trevor Simeon was the quarterback for a part of that game.
I promise you it was washed Joe Flacco who played poorly.
God, that's fantastic.
Horrendously. And still,
elite.
The Titans.
2 elite performances by his teams.
I can't understand. You're right, because I do default to that game more than any other. The touchdownless overtime field goal victory.
The Browns.
Between the Titans and the Browns the year the Browns went 0-16.
Yeah, Deshaun Kaiser.
That one was terrible.
Kevin Byard interception hat trick.
Hat trick interception.
Titans
that was
legend.
That was the high. It was Byard and it was Suckup, because those are the only people doing anything worth a damn in that game.
I love that this show today has become, or just right now has become, like that tweet of like men will just sit around and talk about old games for an hour, and it's disgusting. that's just what we're doing right now.
Instead of seeing a therapist.
I'm feeling something like this is therapeutic for me.
No, 2019 Denver was it is therapy for me to still 3 years after the fact.
It's the worst one.
Express how much I bleeping hate.
You caught yourself there.
Hate how I spent that afternoon in Denver.
Same. I mean, I wasn't there, but I hate that I spent an afternoon where I could have been doing things around the house watching that game.
I'd rather be in Denver.
Yeah, that's right. At least you're there. Like there's something to do. You could see the mountains.
I think the only thing that was accomplished out of that game was the fact that I'm still blocked by Benjamin Albright on Twitter.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
He had that smug, gloating picture of himself, and he ended up being vindicated. He had said that Ryan Tannehill was going to be the starter at some point in the 2019 season, and he covers, of course, the Broncos. And I made fun of the fact that he got punked in front of John Robinson about something. I can't remember the specific the details on it, but I know that he still has me blocked on Twitter.
Because when I want to know Titans quarterback news, I also go to other teams' beat reporters.
It is a weird thing. It is a weird news environment.
That
generally these days.
explains why you did not see the tweet that I sent in to our little DM group with you, myself, and Robert Walsh. By the way, yesterday. Robert Walsh's 29th birthday. A very happy birthday to our guy.
Robert.
All right, Brett, you on your toes? Happy birthday to Robert Walsh.
I lost it.
Oh.
I had it, but I don't want to hit the wrong button. I'm
So-
still just searching for it.
This explains why you did not
Oh,
see what I
yes.
sent in about Benjamin Albright. The headline from clevescene.com.
Can't believe this is real.
That Cleveland
Got it.
is hosting the National Massage Therapist Convention this month.
Oh, bleep you.
It's true.
No.
That explains why. That explains why you had no response to this when I sent it into
In
our.
things you can't make up at, what is it, Albright NFL on Twitter, for those of you who are not blocked, Cleveland is hosting the National Massage Therapist Convention this month. There's a link. Oh, my God. What is the website? Cleveland.com.
Clevescene.com.
Clevescene.com. That sounds like it might be questionable. Be careful.
Turn on safe search, boys and girls.
Be careful on your work computers, kids. Okay, I'm sorry. I promised people that we would give them Music
let's
City
take
Grand,
calls.
or Big Machine Music City Grand Prix tickets. What is the thing that you have learned most about the Titans through camp? For us collectively, it seems to be a combination of the wide receivers, the corners, and what we have seen from the offensive line. What have you brought to the table? 615-737-1045, and we are giving out several. Jack Gentry just texted me and said, Benjamin Albright refused to come on the Tighten Up podcast because I work with you.
Stop.
Whatever I did, I don't remember exactly what I did to Benjamin Albright to elicit such rage. But anyway.
Let's take some calls.
Okay, let's take some calls. Let's start with who's been waiting the longest. I have Bob in Columbia up first. Hello, Bob.
Hey, gentlemen. It's Uncle Bob, as you know me. The thing that I've learned, just the greatest thing is the lack of injuries. I say a little prayer every year. Wouldn't it be great? Not realistic. It's part of the game.
Sure.
But from high school all the way through, wouldn't it be great if nobody ever had an injury so you could see exactly what everybody's got? So to me, not just what I've learned from listening to you guys every day, but that to me is the greatest news. So I'll hang up and God bless.
I appreciate the call, Bob. Always good to hear from Uncle Bob. Dylan Cole is the closest thing that we've had to that, and that happened today. I did not see an update from Mike Vrabel on the status of Dylan Cole. I do not know if it was even posed to Mike Vrabel at this point in Vrabel's tenure about injuries. But Dylan Cole did need help to get off the practice field earlier today, did walk to the locker room under his own power. Now, that does not guarantee that it's not a significant injury. It just means that it's an injury that allowed him to get up and physically walk about 20 minutes after he went down on the field. But, yeah, so, I mean, so far so good as far as key critical pieces to the football team, but obviously several more weeks of camp to come along. V-Love just sent me a tweet. I don't know. Can I say the second word? Oh, hang on. Can I say the second word that V-Love has tweeted here on the air? Can I do that on FCC Radio?
I don't know.
Kirby,
I would err on the side of caution.
Kirby B, help me
Kirby
guide me here.
Pulls down his glasses
as the guiding light. Can I say the second word? So it's the tweet that Vincent Love has sent me. No, I can't say that word on the radio. Okay. You're right. That was better off the mic. That's a good point. Okay, I can't say that. Excellent work by if you would like to see He8V on Twitter. What, Brad?
Whoa, never mind then. Never mind. I'll just go back to the shadows myself.
But it's so bad because Brett's saying things to me in my headset. The Zone TV chat, I think, can hear everything that Brett says.
They can hear everything, yeah.
So I don't know whether Brett's in my ear or he's on the air. I don't know what's happening. No, Kirby, I don't know. Gastrointestinal exit? That's the word you would prefer me to use? How is that any different than describing the word that you will not allow me to say?
Well, that's academic.
Oh, okay.
That is academic. Let's take some more Titans calls.
All right, 615-737. Well, wait, Brett, what did you want from me first?
The national convention for the massage is just a block and a half away from the Brown Stadium.
Oh,
so
no.
it's going to be right next
All
to it.
eyes on Deshaun Watson.
That's swell.
No one let him out of your sight.
Are they touring the Browns facility?
Not without waivers, Curb. Not without waivers. Both of you back to the shadows. Let's go to Matt in Nashville up next. Hello, Matt.
Good afternoon, Buck. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
One thing I've learned over these last 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of training camp, would be the confidence that we have in Aaron Brewer stepping up and potentially being our starting left guard, where Roger Saffold was originally placed. Sounds like we've kept him around for all these years, kind of been a versatile guard, maybe even put him at center a few times when we had Ben Jones go down. So really interested to see what his impact will be going into this new season on that left side of the offensive line.
Thanks for the call, Matt. Brewer's another one of these UDFA success stories that I think you can cite. And that's the kind of question that I think starts to pop up when I think about, like, making a decision on Nate Davis. Can you find another Nate Davis in the third round? Can you find an Aaron Brewer in undrafted free agency that can end up starting for you at some point down the road? Like, these are the kind of cost-benefit analyses that the Titans front office is doing, even at this time this year, because Nate Davis is technically in a contract year. But it does seem that Brewer has solidified that position. Now, I will say that I don't feel great about that. To be completely transparent, like, I consider that to be an obvious weakness on the offensive line, even as it does appear that he has earned that spot. But it is, I guess, just you know what he is. You know he has played. You know that the coaching staff likes what he has brought to the table. And obviously it has been superior than the competition that they brought in free agency in Jamarco Jones to potentially push for that spot. So with all that being said, it seems to be the lesser of two evils, for lack of a better term. But I cannot outright say that I have great confidence in Aaron Brewer to be able to be a good left guard in the NFL. I don't feel that way right now. I've seen enough of him to feel, to know how I feel about Aaron Brewer.
His job to lose.
Oh, sure. Donnie in Cottontown is up next on 104.5 The Zone. Hello, Donnie.
What's going on, Buck? How you doing?
I'm good, stud.
Well, my comment for the last 2 weeks since the training camps have started was Traylon Burks. We were really concerned about him. Early on in the mini camp, coming in maybe a little out of shape, but everything I've been listening to that past week, making big plays, improving on his physique. I'm really happy to hear that. And another comment I have is the offensive line. We need them to pass protect early and take care of our quarterback. And I'm looking forward to this year. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the call, Donnie.
Listen to what I just started playing, too.
Oh, there it is.
I get so excited every time, and it always clips off before I get to turn it up.
Is that the only enjoyable part about producing this show, Brett?
No, everything's enjoyable about it, but I just really enjoy that part of it.
That's the first time you've told me a direct lie. I can't see you in the face. But this is the
never
first
lie.
time that you've told directly to me a lie.
I have never lied to you in my life.
I chewed you out about music earlier. There's no way that you could possibly be enjoying this.
No, I told you I can take it all. So
You have sympathizers here. Lucas literally said, "See what I go through," which, by the way, I'm so sorry for you. I really am. You know what I want to know about Burks? Because he has been impressive. I want to see how sustainable it is. You know what I'm saying? Because at some point, it's going to feel more like August in Nashville, Tennessee, because we have been exceedingly favorable.
That is a good point.
For the last 2 weeks as far as air quality.
Yeah, and I've been meaning to take a victory lap on that. Will and I were talking about it when you were covering David Long's press conference.
A victory lap against whom?
Against you and
you and Mother Nature.
Mother Nature in general. I mean, Teresa Walker got on to me about this when I remarked at how lucky we've been with the weather through the first few days of camp, and it feels pretty damn good out here.
It's not bad.
Pretty good.
A little bit more humid today since the sun has come out recently, but like the storm clouds are overhead. It was 82 with a little breeze.
This has been your weather on the 9s on 104.5 The Zone.
Stay tuned for traffic on the 8s on 104.5 The Zone here from our local Nashville studio. Sorry, you gave me a hole and I ran through it.
3rd down. Uh-oh. Our bird is getting dangerously close to this lawnmower. This is a situation to monitor.
That would actually be horrifying. I don't want to see that.
It's just the one bird. I swear to God, it's rabid. This thing has to have rabies. There's no way.
How little do you know about animals?
We put it
I
to
know
a poll.
nothing about animals.
Exactly.
We put it to a poll. Can birds be rabid?
Other than at Buck Reising is where you can vote it. Yeah, they can.
I mean, that one's not. He's just chilling.
You don't know
Guys
that.
being dudes.
No, he looks too bold. He's clearly carrying disease.
I think on your Burks point, that's interesting is that the goalposts are not going to move for him. Because now that he's in shape and now that he's become a target for Ryan Tannehill with the ones, that's going to become the expectation. Because we've pivoted from the Treylon Burks as the A.J. Brown replacement to can Treylon Burks be in shape? And now I think it's going to pivot back to, is Treylon Burks just going to pick up where A.J. Brown left off again? Like, I think that's the next step for him in the evaluation process for fans. And for fans, that's going to start the first time they see him. And it's not just us telling them what's happening. And that's going to be the first preseason game. I mean, he had a drop today, which we haven't really seen.
We haven't seen that.
He stacks a couple of those together, and I think fans start getting a little bit worried again.
Well, and it's unnecessary.
It is totally unnecessary.
Just as the entire offseason of Treylon Burks was apparently unnecessary. But, I mean, you can only work off the information that you have in front of you beyond what they're willing to or not willing to tell you. And I think that's largely kind of, at least in the same way that the asthma and conditioning were a situation to monitor in camp or in mandatory minicamp and rookie minicamp, like my situation to now monitor with Treylon Burks is, okay, as this wears on, as it takes a toll on everybody, hell, we don't do anything but sit here and talk, and it'll wear on us after a while of being out here at training camp. But for those guys and how they continue to keep themselves up, because remember, he is a rookie. This is the first camp he's been through, and he's learning on the fly. There will be moments that, prove costly in some form or fashion to his ability to continue to sustain those reps. So how he manages that, I swear this lawnmower is going to back over Kirby's bird.
He's over here hiding behind that pole.
He's smart. This guy's a cool customer.
He's been around the block. He knows what he's doing.
That is a wise, foxy bird. I mean, he's just like, hey, man, that mower is no threat to me. I
Kirby,
can fly.
Can birds be rabid?
I'm not sure.
Oh, wow. There's not often
I mean,
ask
they do
Kirby
they do carry diseases, but I don't think rabies is one of them.
That is one of the only scientific questions I've
No,
asked
bats
Kirby
do.
that he's told me I don't know.
This thing
I feel like you always have an answer for him.
Well, I know bats do, and of course animals. I'm not sure about birds.
Well, there's something coming from its mouth. It's
615-737-1045.
He's got avian flu. Oh my God, we're all dead.
It's either rabid, it's either rabies or a bug. I can't
It's
tell.
a blade of grass.
Yeah, I love that we're doing a show for people on camera that there's two cameras and none of them can see the bird.
I'll give you a photograph. You guys can post it.
This is the kind of things they warn against on in Radio 101. Anyway, 615-737-1045. What have you learned about the Tennessee Titans at training camp? I really am interested in the Treylon Burks progression. Let's go to Jeremiah in Murfreesboro. Wants to talk about some wide receivers as well.
Man, I've learned so much about Racey McMath this year. Second-year guy just coming in and taking some deep shots and taking them to the house like in training camp. But what I have not learned is stuff on the inside linebacker core. What's going on with Zach Cunningham and David Long Jr.? I haven't heard much about these guys this training camp or the running backs.
Well, I guess by nature of because there are running backs and there are inside linebackers taking snaps, but because the running back is not Derrick Henry taking the snaps, we don't talk about the running backs, which is not something that we should do. I think that's honestly what you're telling me there, and thank you for the call, Jeremiah. That sounds like a failure on our part to adequately describe to you what's happening at a position at running back where I feel pretty good about their depth.
A lot of bodies. And, we've talked about Dontrell Hilliard and the reps he's been taking with the ones. Even in the times where Derrick Henry was getting limited snaps or in team drills, Dontrell Hilliard has gotten a ton of work next to Ryan Tannehill in the backfield.
He has, and he has been a consistent target within 7-on-7s coming out of the backfield. I think specifically today in 2 minutes, he was pretty good. Look, I mean, a lot of what the Titans do that is good in the running game is predicated on running through tackles, contacts, Derrick Henry running into the second level and stiff-arming a guy into the underworld. Like, you're not getting that opportunity within the parameters of contact and practice. You're not getting the opportunity to see Hassan Haskins trying to stiff-arm somebody the way Derrick Henry does. So I feel like the evaluation process for the offensive line and for the running backs is so different because until we see them in preseason at 100% full speed all the way through the ground, we're really not going to know how good they are at shedding blocks, at shedding tackles until they play somebody else.
Vrabel had an interesting point. I'm going to see if I can't find it on the transcript about Hassan Haskins yesterday.
While you look for that, does that same point not apply to inside linebackers?
I think it's fair, I feel like it's inside linebackers have the element of lining up the defense and getting guys set up in the right spot. Shane Bowen, the defensive staff, at one point today was waving and yelling at the linebackers and the defensive line to shift over one gap after one motion and one change the Titans offense made. So I think there's a mental element to playing the inside linebacker position that running backs aren't being evaluated.
Well, sure, but I'm talking about from our end of things.
Right.
Evaluating practice from our standpoint, we're not watching inside linebackers take guys to ground, right? We're not watching David Long and Zach Cunningham tackle Dontrell Hilliard in the backfield. You're not even allowed to sack the quarterback. Obviously, you can barely put your hands on him. So I think there's something to that. And we haven't uttered Chance Campbell's name once so far in training camp. And he might need to be an important depth piece depending on that injury to Dylan Cole, who was able to walk off on his own power with that left leg injury. But, I mean, there's got to be something to that, right? The difficulty of evaluating the inside linebacker position during training camp. From our perspective.
I said that to somebody today after we had just finished talking about Dylan Cole. I think we had gone to break, and I said, I completely forgot about Chance Campbell, who I think is an early down solutions. I think in a perfect world, he's physically built like Cunningham. He's long. He obviously plays the run well. He understands the run fits when you watch him in the defense at Ole Miss. In fact, he was one of the better points of the Ole Miss defense last year, and obviously not overwhelmingly, physically athletic or physically talented, however you want to call it.
Yeah,
but he
constantly on the field, flying around. Their leading tackler. He was critical for their defense last year.
Here is the line from Mike Vrabel yesterday on how he viewed Hassan Haskins, the acceleration that he has when he receives the handoff. Like, he's obviously running up to the point where he gets the handoff, but his acceleration once he's taken the ball at the line of scrimmage and what he saw there in the scouting process. This is Mike yesterday. There's a good run style there. He runs behind his pads. He's got some play strength and versatility. Probably caught the ball or ran routes better in the spring. We still have to see that here and there a little bit when we ask him to do it. But just it having been our third day in pads for some of these running backs, that's critical, and that work is going to be important, and the preseason work. I think everybody's ability to get to a certain speed, especially at running back, but also to be able to make the cuts that are going to be needed. You just really can't predict where the hole is going to be, and that's important. So they're not stutter stepping or sitting there dancing. So we're going to keep working with all those guys. That is Mike Vrabel's analysis of Hassan Haskins, the rookie running back, the third-round pick out of Michigan. Our guy is monitoring the bird as closely as we are now.
He narrowly missed the mower, and he didn't fly away. He just ran away. He just scurried. You were coming back to the table yesterday after you talked to somebody.
Both Puka and Lebowski demand to see the bird on the YouTube chat.
I'm tweeting it out right now.
Where are you tweeting it from?
From my Twitter account saying the newest host on 104.5 The Zone, and no, he can't be rabid at Buck Reising.
Okay, so there you go. Puka and Lebowski. Will Bowling is tweeting out the bird, who is just standing by watching the mower go right by.
Now I feel bad. Can it not fly?
I don't know.
I think he can. I think he's just comfortable.
Maybe he's an odd bird. This is the literal, the definition of an odd bird.
Well, he flew in a minute ago, and he came all the way down the sidewalk at about 4 inches above and went down there, hung out for a second, then came back up here and started pilfering our tent.
I love this bird.
Hey, I think he's a mascot. We're going to name him Oscar.
I think
there it is.
I think he's a sociopath. He just got a running start.
Yeah, he's coming at us.
He's among good company.
We made eye contact. We made eye contact, and he started to make a move. It's like Lucas coming after the microphone when I'm out for a day.
I did think he pulled a hamstring, though, when the mower came over here. He pulled up a little bit after that third hop.
All right, well, we'll find out if the bird is in better shape than Dylan Cole after practice.
He's picking up.
Him too.
He's testing out Jimmy Wyatt's
sunflower seeds.
Chewed up sunflower seed shells.
Oh, Wyatt's not supposed to be eating those anymore. He's got diverticulitis. I told Jimmy he better knock that off.
Jimmy.
Shameful. All right.
He's coming. Hey, nose on there.
Oh, he's coming at us. Go to break. Quick.
That would be the Monkees I think this came out in about 68.
Okay, 1968.
A fictitious band on a television show that is still, well, I think one member is still alive, Mickey Dolan, still touring around singing this and 2 other songs.
Maybe we just outsource the music to Kirby every day.
I was negative 29 years old when this song came out.
You were a gleam in your daddy's young eye.
All right, excellent. Nothing like the conception of Will Bowling to get us going.
Third down.
Here on a Friday
That's the perfect usage of that right there.
Afternoon.
Live in the flesh.
615-737-1045. What'd you learn about the Titans during training camp? I got Frank, as we do last call for phone calls. Frank is in Nashville today. Hello, Frank.
Hey, guys. Good afternoon. Hope your day is going well.
It is. Hope yours is too.
Yeah. So what I've learned most during training camp is I think Malik Willis is probably one of the smartest players on the team, maybe the smartest quarterback. I think his footwork's gotten better, and when he sees the players out there, so throwing to the right person. But the smartest thing he did is when he turned around and saw Big Jeff, he hit the ground, he curled up like a baby, and said, "That's it. I've had enough."
It was the smartest play I've seen on a field of play in 8 days of training camp practice. You are 1,000%.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good day.
Correct. Thanks for the call. That was a hilarious rep. They were doing some open field tackling. Malik competes in these. Now, they're obviously not like wrapping him up. There's not as much contact as there would be Mccreary versus Phillips or David Long against Chig. But they put Willis in there for a rep, and then while he had his back turned, they put Big Jeff out there to see if Willis would notice. And then all of a sudden Malik turns around with the ball in his hands, and he goes fetal position. He drops to the ground. He goes to the fetal position. And does not allow Jeff to do any kind of open field tackling situation on him in that instance. Yes, I would say that's a wise move.
It's a heady play.
A heady play indeed. One more. Stephen in Clarksville will wrap us up for the day before we do some polls. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, guys. I feel like what I've learned so far in this training camp is that Ryan Tannehill's performance is going to be closer to 2019-2020 season, and here's why. Because second year of offensive coordinator in the system and more continuity with the wide receivers, and he has 2 of what he didn't have last year, and that's starting caliber-ish tight ends. Thank you.
You know, we talked to – it was funny because we were talking to Pat O'Hara, the quarterback's coach, yesterday about Tannehill, lack of interceptions during training camp. And O'Hara, I think it was Tehran, who, by the way, we're doing a 615 Sessions podcast right after the radio show wraps up today with Tehran Davenport and our buddy Rex Road. So that'll be a good time. But Tehran had asked Pat O'Hara about, what do you kind of take away? You're not trying to get too bent out of shape about interceptions or lack thereof. And then all of a sudden, Kevin Byard makes a play on a Ryan Tannehill pass. There's a miscommunication between Hooper and Tannehill as TD struts by. And then there is Ryan Tannehill's first interception of training camp. So, you don't try to make too much out of it, but obviously it's beneficial to see the quarterback taking care of the football because, of course, that was what damned you against the Cincinnati Bengals earlier this year.
At this point last year, that was already a story.
It was.
100%.
It's a thing. People were making it a thing. All right, Kirby, is the Bird sticking around to do polls with us? Yeah, he's right there. All right, the Bird is right here. Let's do the polls.
Not now, Jenny. I'm on the radio. Buck Reising gave me a job. Said something about a poll update. Hope that wasn't at that club where you became a folk singer. Anyway, Buck Reising's producer and correspondent has the final poll update. I'm not a smart man, but I know who Lucas Panzica is.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford. Custom order any new Ford from Two Rivers. They will deliver it to you as soon as it is manufactured. What is the most underrated position battle at Titans training camp? Interesting submission by Mike Fenner. He says punter, because I would imagine they could save a few bucks if Ryan Stonehouse proves himself enough.
I think the old man's feeling it. I really do. I think Brett Kern is very cognizant that he is in a legitimate training camp competition for the job of Titans punter, and not for any other reason other than you've heard Mike Vrabel comment on the punting far more than he ever did on the field goal kicking. It's not just, the kickers are going to go out there and make their kicks. All of a sudden it's a preseason game sideline interview in Tampa where Vrabel is like hugely critical of the punting, and now, they have a talented player who they feel pretty good about.
Ryan Stonehouse has a crazy amount of hang time on his kicks.
Well, that's the thing that Kern does so well. So perhaps we will see.
Colorado State product locked into battle with the Toledo product. Randalizer says inside linebacker.
Well, listen, they're running out of bodies.
Yeah.
They're running out of bodies at this point in time. And for the Tennessee Titans, it's going to be essential for them to kind of see where they're at as far as Monty Rice is concerned, still on the PUP list and dealing with all of his situations coming off of the Achilles issue last year. I think for Monty Rice, his presence will be essential sooner rather than later.
Crazy Pellet says kick/punt returner.
Yeah, we saw a bunch of dudes out there. It was remind me, 84 UDFA out of, what is it, Army?
Oh, goodness. 84
Air Force
is Brandon Lewis out of Air Force. That's
Air
right.
Force, yes.
San Diego native.
So he was out there taking some punt return snaps. Kyle Phillips, Mason Kinsey. I saw Terry Godwin as well. And then, of course, Trenton Cannon, who Zach Lyons has told us, yes, not him, somebody who's good at the return job.
Senor Jorge says Vrabel's chewing tobacco preference.
Yeah, no, that's listen. Between Mike has a variety of different tobacco products, I'm sure, that he traffics in. I don't know what his preferred brand is, though. No free ads.
What is Mike Leach's ceiling at Mississippi State?
Perhaps Kirby could find out.
40%.
Perhaps we send Kirby on a fact-finding mission.
40% say 8-4 is the ceiling for the Pirate. 26% say 9-3. 24% say 7-5, which is what they did last year. 10% say 10-plus wins.
10-plus wins. 10-plus wins is crazy in the SEC West. That's nonsense to me. I mean, my goodness. But like I said, Mike Leach has a lot of promise at Mississippi State. I just don't think it's going to matter in 2022.
Yeah, they returned so much, but you're right. I think 5th in the SEC West is the ceiling for the Bulldogs this year, and that could be an 8-4 record and a very solid season for Mike Leach.
It would seem to be the case.
What is the coolest sporting event Nashville has ever hosted? With the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix starting up this weekend. Today, excited to hang out with you guys on the General Jackson on Sunday. 68% say it's the NFL Draft. 26% say Stanley Cup Finals. 4% say the Music City Grand Prix. And 2% say the NHL All-Star Game.
Kirby, you have thoughts here? What's the coolest sporting event that the city of Nashville has hosted?
I have to go with nothing against the Grand Prix. It's early on. It's in its infancy. But the draft changed the draft for the NFL for the rest of time.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
As did the Stanley Cup Finals, but then the draft just blew that away.
Agreed. The Stanley Cup Final was the precursor to the draft, which then changed the way that every city now approaches their draft bid, the entertainment around and during the draft. Live music was not something that was thought of during the NFL draft, during the process of reading a list of names on a list of teams on where these guys are going. Yeah, maybe play some music in the middle of all of that for from local artists to give people more exposure and to make the NFL feel more like the NFL draft, feel more like an all-encompassing event. Nashville did that.
Shout out to Belmont SID Greg Sage, who texted me saying, should have been the World Cup. That would have topped the list.
Amen.
Should have been the World Cup.
What's cooler, going 126 in a 65 or evading cops in a moped? 89% say evading cops in a moped.
You put that out on my Twitter account by saying it's cool to go 126 in a 65?
I should have made it what is more metal.
It's going to be metal, to quote the great Michael Scott.
I hate you both.
Steven says you will never be cool until you evade cops on a moped.
We legitimately had police officer analysis.
Isn't that like a Florida Gators thing? Like because everyone drives mopeds in Gainesville.
Well, they had them at Vandy for the longest. I had a buddy who played for Vandy a couple of years ago, right when we got out of high.
You're confusing scooters for mopeds.
Ah, that's right.
What's the difference?
Well, there's a difference. A moped has gas in it. It's a bike / a motor, a combustible engine, and those things over at the campus were electric.
How is it that they're finding bigger lawnmowers?
That's a sand spreader right there and fertilizer. That's what that is.
They are actively finding new ways to disrupt the audio quality of the broadcast today.
As they should.
What do you call it? It's searing under the surface, or it's bubbling under the surface, this ongoing feud that we have with the Titans equipment or lawn care people.
Can birds be rabid? 51% say yes, 49% say no, you idiot. Lebowski says 52% of you need to learn to use the internet better.
That's correct.
V-Love says trick question, birds aren't real.
There it is.
And yeah, I'm surprised it took that long for that
Government
to come up.
agents are rabid.
Football, another F word, says only if they have a computer virus.
Yes.
Mammals are the only animals that can be rabid is the correct answer.
All right, very good. I'm glad we finally used the internet
Our long national nightmare is over.
in the correct way.
Those are the polls.
That's the show, kids. It's been a lot of fun out here at Titans training camp. If you missed any of the interviews that we have done, whether it's Kayla Farley, Amani Hooker, Christian Fulton, John Robinson, Kyle Phillips, Rashad Weaver, a lot of defensive players. We need to balance that out in the next week. We'll have plenty more to go as we do our training camp broadcasts out here. Just check out the podcast if you missed any of it. It's the Buck Reising Show in your favorite podcast app. Blaine and Mickey going to continue the conversation. 3HL to wrap up your Friday. I'm going to tape a 615 Sessions podcast with our good buddies Teron and Rex Road here in just a second. And I'll talk to you Monday, 10 a.m., I assume, out here on the practice field.
Enjoy race weekend.
Yes, we'll see you Sunday on the General Jackson. Talk to you Monday on the radio.